close my eyes.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Updates to ranked mode, some gunplay adjustments, the return of the black market, and a little boom boom while you zoom zoom. All this and more as we dive into the Update 36.1 patch report. First up, ranked mode is getting some major changes for Season 36. Ranks now feature 2 new tiers, Crystal between Platinum and Diamond, and Survivor tier for those who can manage to push themselves beyond Master. Ranked Duo mode is being added, while tiers and RP have been unified across party types and perspectives. Because of this, everyone's RP will be reset this season back down to 1500. And ranked playpoint rewards have been improved. So drop in, rank up, and collect your new rewards. In addition, we're also unifying your Battlegrounds experience between ranked and normal matches. This means you'll see the recall system, Red Zone, BRDM, and items like the zipline gun and C4 in ranked. These are big changes to how ranked works. Be sure to let us know your feedback. Next up, we've got a couple of weapon adjustments coming your way. We've cut down the AUG's aim punch by roughly 50% and slightly reduced its damage, while the VSS and muzzle brake have been buffed. We'll be launching Gunplay Lab's DMR Rebalance soon to test the reduced RPM and damage for DMRs. This DMR rebalance aims to strengthen the unique characteristic of DMRs and better differentiate them from SRs. So make sure you drop in and let us know your thoughts. PUBG's annual superstore, the Black Market, is making its return this update. Pick up a new Crafter Pass along with 4 classic progressive weapon skins and 6 chromas. Check out the upcoming Black Market announcement for all the details on how to grab these fan-favorite skins. We've also rebalanced the red zone a bit and added vending machines and destructible pots to Vikendi. And speaking of destruction, players can now toss throwables while driving and use handguns from the driver's seat in Watercraft, just in case you needed to add a little more rage to your road. There's a lot to dive into, so be sure to check out the patch notes for full details on everything. Update 36.1 is here, so stop by the Black Market, brush up on your ranked skills, and toss more out your window than dirty looks. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Welcome back, everybody, to the PUBG Players Tour. It is day 2 of week 2 for this PUBG Players Cup, where teams are competing for their opportunity to qualify for that $20,000 Masters. We have 4 games tonight. My name is Chunks. I am joined once again by Zenox. And Zenox, Mirror, they stole the show yesterday. But granted, Furia, they put up a really strong performance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a lot of fun yesterday. I kind of came into it, and it had been a little bit of time since I was able to do the last Players Cup. So straight away off the bat, I was like, oh, that's right. This is, very energetic, fast-paced, but also the difference between the last time I did it and then this time I did it with the new point structure. And, you could clearly tell in comparison to, more of the traditional PUBG Esports where teams want center circle, they want placement points and things like that. It was like Mirror, Furia, they're just running around trying to kill everyone as quickly as they possibly can to get these kill points. And those are the reasons why, I guess in Team's Mirror case, why they've got such a healthy gap. And obviously they've already qualified, so it makes our job, I guess, a little bit easier. We don't have to really worry about them whatsoever. 55 Esports also in the top 8 as well, Chunk. So it's essentially going to be a top 10 very likely today in terms of those looking to qualify.
Yeah, it'd take a very strange set of games tonight to see the top 8 only qualify. But let's remind ourselves of how we got here. First of all, we have the player scrims. Anyone can take part of these as long as you're 16 years of age or older. The registration for the next block of scrims isn't open just yet because we've got that Masters coming up. But those teams took part through the week. They qualified for the Players Cup, and now we are here preparing for that Masters, which obviously has a $20,000 prize pool. So a lot to play for the top 8 teams. And just remind ourselves, we do have 55 Esports and Team Mirror who have both already qualified. So that means that in theory, we could go down to 10th place, but the map rotation, we keep things snappy. Miramar, Tego, Rondo, Erangel, only 4 games this evening, which means that there are not many opportunities to make the magic happen. We are going to be playing on that new point system where it's only going to be 5 points for a win, which means that only the top 4 teams get a point for placement, so it's going to be very kill heavy. And it was last week where we saw those kill heavy teams perform to be able to qualify for the Masters.
Yeah, and I think that what we saw yesterday was pretty much clear-cut. Teams very much adapting to the point structure, and these guys are professionals. They're able to do that. Whether you like the point structure or you don't, you play to it, and the best teams are going to be able to do just that, which is what we've essentially seen last week and then even yesterday as well. So 4 games, and you've got to go into it not having, again, the traditional background of saying, okay, we only need a couple of points, let's play safe. Like, you can't really do that with this point structure. Certainly seen some teams do well in terms of placement points outside of Team Mirror, one of them being Foradoris, who is sitting in 4th right now. They've got 9 placement points, only the 14 kills. I say only, but you look at in comparison to the top 9, they're the lowest in that. So out of the top 10, it's Forados in 4th, and then Team Razav in 10th when it comes to those total kills. So they've been really, really good when it comes to the placement points alongside Furia, alongside obviously Team Mirror as well. I think now we kind of look towards like Team Razav, Empire Gaming, Pure RNG, Luminosity, just around the bottom end of that top 10 right now, who will be very much within striking distance to Berserk, Team Cresido, For Happy Men's, and, well, really all the way down to the bottom. Even Rush to Win in last. I mean, the beauty of the tournament structure that we've kind of got here, Chunks, is that Rush to Win come into the last day, dead last, only 3 kill points, but you have a really good day today in the 4 matches, you could still jump into that top 10.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility where a team, even at the bottom end of the leaderboard, is able to get themselves a 15-kill win. I think in one of the previous weeks, we saw Team Mirror get themselves a 20-kill win, and that was on the old point system. So it really is, it's a kill-heavy play style tonight. That's what the teams are going to be focusing on. But let's get over into Miramar for our first game of the evening. Reminder, there are only going to be 4 games tonight, so teams really have to make it count. And for me, I think the team that we've got to keep an eye on is Bestia. Obviously, a very strong squad. They are going to be playing with Sneak Attack as a substitute, and I mentioned it yesterday. I'll mention it today. He is very unwell at the moment, so they had a really poor performance yesterday, but they are still well within striking distance when you look at how close that leaderboard is.
Yeah, there is one asterisk. They did miss a game yesterday as well. I think it might have been actually the very first game. Can't recall, but they did miss one. So they've got 7 points overall from 3 games rather than, say, 4 games. So you do give them that little asterisk. They can't get that extra game back, so they'll only end up being able to play 7 overall, 4 today, 3 yesterday, which means, you know, it's a slight little disadvantage, but that's maybe part of the fun for Bestia. They're more than good enough that they can still make 10, top 10. And, you know, I think they've got the capabilities to be able to have a pretty decent kill-heavy kind of game. And that's really, again, what's going to be probably required today for those teams that are not inside of the top 10. Fakeson and Team Mirror. I mean, they're going to have some fun today, though. Like, always love the vehicle gameplay when it comes to PUBG. We had some wacky stuff last night in the EWC APAC quals, but it's going to be the kind of 4 games where, okay, it's a strange one, but like the first game today, you don't have to go all guns blazing. You can still play pretty smart, pretty calculated. Then the next game, and suddenly you realize, oh, there's only 2 games after this. Like it catches up to you pretty quickly as we go from halfway through to done in 4 games. It's quite fascinating that, you know, in my time doing PUBG throughout all of these years, it's only been until Players Cup that we've had these kind of more short form tournaments outside of, I guess, you know, super early round quals, you know, where maybe you play 12 games or something like that, which I guess is somewhat comparable, but I think it actually makes it very exciting, very fun. I kind of wish we would be more able to do these kind of tournaments more often.
Yeah, it keeps things snappy, and it means that any game matters, you know? When you're dealing with 18 games, a lot of the time you can write off a couple of those games and you think, okay, as long as we keep that point average good enough, we're going to still qualify. No, it keeps things exciting, even down to that very last match. Any team, in theory, could be able to qualify as long as they're able to lay that foundation, get a couple of points on the board, because again, you know, the cutoff point is currently only 9 points, and any team can get 9 points in a single game. 9 kills is so achievable. Even if you get 4 kills and a win, you're all the way up in the qualification spot. So it does add that element of will they, won't they. Every single week when we go into that Sunday, we're thinking, okay, we've got 5 teams that could potentially qualify, 5 teams that could potentially get knocked down. It's going to be a real interesting watch for sure. But right now, circles popped. It's going to go down towards Los Leones, and we are already seeing the inverse donut that we spoke about yesterday on the map. So just a reminder for chat, make sure you do !map, go and pull that up on a second monitor so you can see all of the rotations, because the northeastern side of Los Leones right now is looking a bit spicy.
Yeah, it certainly is. I imagine that will change probably pretty soon. Those teams are going to get moving, then everyone else is going to want to probably come in. And the issue with a circle like this, with Los Leones being where it's kind of located, you almost treat it as unplayable for phase 1. Not that it isn't actually unplayable, but you'd rather not go into Los Leones this early on into a game. And then you kind of look at the circle and you think, okay, statistically, which side's a bit larger, north side? And it is probably that Kentara side. So then for a phase 1 zone, the way that teams are going to be looking at this is we probably want to go north, as we got Balefrost finding the opening kill of this game onto Yayi. For Bandito, it's not an ideal start to lose 1 early, but this is the nature of the PUBG Players Cup. You got to be wary. Teams will pull up. They want to take fights. They want to go for early kills. Empire towards the lower end of the standings of the top 10, so a handy start for them.
I want to know how Balefrost ended up in this position, because he only had a Panzer and that Mark 12 with a couple of bullets in the back. So I'm not sure how Empire have pulled that rotation out, whether they would just focus on getting a player in there early, prioritising position, knowing that if he hits that Panzer on a vehicle, it'll do a lot of damage, but it's actually going to be Gats, the player who just left a Luminosity, taking down Flood, the player who replaced him. So Pure RNG now going to be on a bit of a rescue mission, trying to keep Gats alive. The smokes are up to break the line of sight, but that Sandstorm, they're just on the edge of it. It might provide just enough cover for him to get away safely.
I mean, yeah, the Sandstorm, very much a nuisance. Flood, dead. He's not close to anyone from Luminosity that's going to be able to revive him. At best, maybe Blue Chip. Gats is going to be able to pick up that early kill for Pure RNG. Currently, as things stand, finding themselves outside of that top 10 node, actually 8th. So on the precipice, right, on that kind of edge, close by to Luminosity. In fact, with that kill, they end up tying them. So two teams that, you know, if you kind of have a bit of a poor start today in terms of the first two maps, you might actually find yourself outside the top 10. That's just how close they are. And we know with yesterday, Luminosity very much struggled overall. It wasn't the cleanest kind of day until we saw some really big plays from the likes of Bizla, from the likes of Voxic, able to do some really good things. But in terms of that consistency, it wasn't quite really there throughout the 4 matches. Consistency can be hard to find, though, admittedly, when you only do play the 4 games and they're all on 4 different maps. Like, you only play Miramar once, so it's hard to really get, you know, a bit of a footing. Lovely scenic overview. I feel like I'm watching a getaway movie.
Oh no. Tire being popped out, rank phobic taken out. It's almost a certainty when you're rotating in that buggy and there's a team chasing you down that one of those tires is going to go. You have no cover. The tires take up probably like a quarter of the vehicle space. So yeah, getting spun out, unfortunate. And we were talking about consistency. That's something Foradora's had yesterday for sure. Consistently making it to the late game. Sure, they didn't pick up those massive kill games like we'd maybe expect in this point system, but they were really good at prioritizing their position, getting top 4 placements, and getting a couple of kills to go with it, and that's what put them in such a high position to wrap up yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Foradoras yesterday, their ability to survive, get to late game situations was pretty much only matched and slightly bettered by, say, Team Mirror. But Team Mirror were also doing that while getting a ridiculous amount of kills, hence why they're so far up in that top spot. And, you know, Furia also having a very, very good day yesterday too. Similar kind of position.
Oh, no.
That's just very unfortunate. Kraken was trying to avoid some of the gunfire and has kind of just back turned in towards Fossa, and he's ran him over. And actually just copped another shot. Those are some... like, that is some kind of angle. If that's coming from that potentially dangerous player, I mean... yeah, they're quite a distance away. It's a very small fine line gap. To be able to just hit that shot onto Kraken, the one where he's already down, through the car as well, he may not even be aware that he landed that shot, but that is a ridiculous shot to land from that kind of distance. I know they're just peppering, and you might get a bit lucky, but still.
I do wonder a little bit, what was it that Kraken saw on that body that was so important to loot that he knew he was going to get shot, where he threw a smoke down, used the vehicle for cover? That doesn't seem like the best decision to me, unless this is the position that they do want to play going later into the game. But as Nightavon gets up on the hillside, he's going to be hitting the spray onto RDS's vehicle. He's not able to convert it, but if he peeks over, Kawazine could be in big trouble. Using that third person to get the read, he finds the headshot, but Kawazine, quick to respond, gets himself the nade, throws it over the top, and Fioria looking to retreat now.
Yeah, and this is what we saw a lot of from Furia yesterday. Again, no surprise to see, you know, quite a few of the same teams early on that started well yesterday, start well today, even potentially Dangerous. I thought had a really good day, sitting in third right now and wanting to kind of just give them a little moment where their kills is really where a lot of their strength was. They didn't get a lot of placement points. I mean, placement points are hard to get in a tournament format such as this. They only got the 2. But they've also picked up 22 kills, which is actually good overall in the lobby for second, just in front of Furia by 1. So yesterday, that was a big strength of theirs, as they'll be able to look and get Gabriel back. But that's kind of set them up really nicely. I can't imagine, 24 points coming into today, as long as they keep a pretty similar pace, that it would be very hard to envision they would miss out on that top 10 being so high up with only 4 games remaining, as we see the Sandstorm, but also the revival of Flood as he parachutes back down in a very scenic way. Here is Team Mirror, deep in the blue right now. 10 seconds or so until we get phase 2 pop. And I was a bit right. And north side is where everyone wants to go. Kantara, of course, we saw the fighting with Furia. They rotated in there. Outerman is Generales. There's like 1-2 teams around the more southern side, and that's where the circle pulls, though. So it goes from the north down towards the south, and that's going to mean a lot of rotations.
I think I know what it is that Poster was trying to loot now. I think he was trying to actually pick up that blue chip. That's the only thing that makes sense, but it clearly didn't work out for them. There's potentially dangerous going to be the second team to recall their teammate. Mirror, though, they're the first team to really put their foot to the floor. They always tend to do this on Miramar. They take those early game fights. This time it was just a couple rotation kills, but they were just chilling out in the blue waiting for that. They know this lobby well by this point. They are doing their VOD reviews. They're knowing where these teams rotate, and I think that was the read by Mirror. So really nicely done to be able to spot out that rotate, get 2 points early on, and Team Mirror, they're one of those squads where, yeah, they don't worry too much at this point. They are secure in the top 8. They've already qualified. They are playing for cash, but they want that cash, and they're going to keep putting on those kills until they get confirmed and they know that they're first place. And even then, that's when they start making those high-risk plays, which somehow for Mirror never seem to go wrong. They always seem to just come out on top and consistently stack up huge numbers of kills when they don't need to.
Yeah, and I think that for Team Mirror, like, you're also playing with a sense of freedom. You don't have to, worry about losing these fights, and that in itself gives you an extra confidence in your ability to win them, whereas other teams more towards the bottom of the standings put far more emphasis on surviving, and they can't get over aggressive, and they're going to be, usually when you're fighting Team Mirror in this lobby, more likely everyone else is going to be on that back foot. They're going to be more defensive. They're going to be more defending their positions against the Team Mirror team that can just do kind of whatever they want, and they can be over aggressive if they want, and that ends up being an extra strength. We saw an E pick up as well, and that's going to be ranked Phobic down towards the south by himself right now, actually, from that E pickup, as Michael's going to be eliminated by Posse. Here come Team Mirror. Luminosity right in front of them. And these are the decisions as well. Like a Team Luminosity, you see a team coming in by the road. Do you pull up? Do you take the fight? Do you try and get a knock? Do you avoid it? In this case, it's Team Mirror, so maybe the best thing to do is actually potentially avoid it. Voxic thought about kind of tracking back a little bit, but then saw far more vehicles, and the rest of his team had decided to push up the hill, get this building at least as a temporary safe house. This is not in the zone, and the blue is moving, so this is not a long-term solution whatsoever here for Luminosity. I'm curious to see what their game plan actually is.
Forever spotting out the rotate, nearly able to finish off that Berserker's squad. Still going to be 2 players left up, though. They are in a decent enough position for now. I do worry about this spot when that zone shifts. If it goes to the east, they're going to have a pretty difficult rotate ahead of them. It's Bestia try to cause Rise a little bit of trouble on the rotate. Sneak attack going to be able to get the opening. Not DraftKings follows up with a second. And if they can confirm these, they've already tripled their points from yesterday, but it seems like Martin and Fisher have wrapped around, caught them in a tricky angle, and it leaves only Vinny up. So Rives are gonna try and get themselves the revives up. Vinny is just gonna send it in to try and confirm those points, and he will be given a bit of a blessing from the zone to have the opportunity to get those revives in. Vinny spots out one. He's gonna prep the frag grenade, throws it over. It looks to be close, but it wasn't cooked too well, so they will be able to avoid it. Baravero confirms the flush on sneak attack.
And right now you can see that map screen here on the left-hand side, open as it possibly can be when it comes to this circle pop that we've got, phase 3, road in the middle. So it's going to be a very open kind of finish. A lot of fighting is necessary unless you're kind of playing more towards the edge positions where there might still be some buildings. You do have some towards the kind of south center bit where you've got the field plus the building combination, but prone to crashes as it's quite open. Teams will have very little other options. So, I mean, this is going to be very intriguing. The north side's just so congested right now, kind of where we're seeing potentially dangerous, where they've got Glock by himself. Then the other three are actually kind of all kind of separated as well. It's like a 2-1-1 split where the solos have been kind of crashed a little bit right now. And those solos are in the zone. The other two are not. So they've got decisions that they're making and kind of talking about how do we get the other team members back in and help out Glock. So the three members now starting to move closer towards his location. The beauty, again, though, of this structure is you want to fight. So you don't kind of just leave him there and go for a better position. You're best off just kind of going to him and saying, well, let's fight this then. And let's see if maybe we can utilize someone like Glock in a position that the opposing team might not be aware of his spot. As Bestia is going to be the first team eliminated, their slow start here in this tournament is continuing now into day 2.
Unfortunate for them. We saw for a second on the other side of things, Furia, they attempted to use the E pickup, but Mira, being that hyper-aggressive squad, caused a major headache for them, so they've had to abandon their plans. They're hopping in the vehicles to make the rotate. It's potentially dangerous. It looks like they plan to try and take this compound off of Team Casito, another team over on the cusp right now. The squad we have seen consistently making it to those Super Cups. So far this weekend, they've just not had that big performance we'd like out of them.
Yeah, Ranked Phobic knocked. Trying to see whether or not he's got a revivable position, and indeed he does. One's already on top of him. Snake is knocked down. This has been the strength for Foradoros, though, is making the late game. As we switch over to Forever, and Pandorito has been knocked, but DGT is going to be able to get the kill onto Kraken after that initial swift knockdown. Nade thrown over towards RDS. That one, I think, a little bit to the left. Never mind. That one actually does explode and catch him completely. And in the end, that's now 3 down for Furia. 1 player standing. Kawazine has been knocked as well by Unhappy. So Furia are on the verge of an early elimination. Possa, though, catching DGT off guard. Caught him from behind. And does get the swift elimination. 3 kills for Furia, but they will be down to just the solo moving forward in this match as Razor have out in 14th. Quiet game for them, being the team in 10th position. They need the points. They know there'll be teams below them on the standings looking to try and get into that top 10. Possa, well, he's very much stuck out in the blue, but he'll take an extra kill for good measure. Make that 4 kills now for Furia as he takes out another member. 4 kills is not that bad for a team that's already looking, I'd say, rather confirmed at the top end.
Also, caught out by Nubsky, the final player from Forever 2. It looks like he was able to get that first aid kit popped in time. Nubsky opting not to throw the Molotov instead, focusing on getting himself into zone, but that's going to be a difficult task when Valiate is taking the shots up the hill. Should be able to just about get behind this ridge as Osa definitely playing like Nubsky is still there. I'm sure the kill feed awareness is now going to come through. They're going to make a note that, okay, that's the final Forever player being taken out, and you'd imagine that Posa probably going to pop that first aid kit, start making the move himself. The circle continues to close in, as do Team Mirror. Still 4 players strong down on the southeast. Potentially going to butt heads with Foradoras and Luminosity as Banditos. They're just going to be holding onto this dip for all it's worth. I mean, it's a very powerful one when the circle shifts up here. A lot of the time, you see a squad on each corner of this crossroads going into that late game.
Yeah. No, 100%. This is a bit of a risky play right now for Berserk, though. A lot of eyes can certainly reach this current location. Loot crate unlooted. They're going to go straight past it, though. Glock got knocked and then quickly flushed as well. Rush to win. The team that's in last position coming into today, 2 early kills. Every point's certainly going to matter. I think they only had the 3 points overall coming into today's action. Indeed, I am correct. And no placement points, just the 3 kill points. But at least in this game, they've got 2. Only the 2 players remaining. But it's at least getting that kind of points margin continuing to just tick over. That feels a lot better. And though caught in the back is Pesadillo. 3 kill for Balefrost. 4 kills now for Empire. Looking to climb up those standings coming into today in 9th. So they're in that top 10. And we get ourselves the next zone pop in the next 15 seconds as Rush to Win do get eliminated. So they take the 2 kills. That'll put them to 5 points. Just keeps them close enough going into the final 3 games. But they're going to have certainly now bigger performances than just 2 or 3 kills at a time. They're going to need at least one pretty decent game if they're going to have any chance of getting into that top 10. And what a feed for Doris. Can you even believe it at this point? I certainly can, Chunks. At this point, I believe they just know how to get late game.
Sometimes it's about making those predictions, playing off of them. And yeah, Forward Auras, they've got themselves that circle again. Still no kills on the board. Team Mirror nearby, so if Team Mirror do have to cross out in that open field, which you'd imagine they try and avoid, then Forward Aura's going to be looking to try and get some more as Balefrost getting absolutely lit up, but saved in a way by Team Mirror as Karak's forced to stop shooting. We'll be able to get yet another knock over onto potentially dangerous as Tony, he's got the BRDM, he is pushing up, he sees Gabriel just creeping up on him and gets the run over. That's going to be the end of potentially dangerous, and of course he's going to get the flush onto Balefrost as well. That leaves Poonage as the final player left up here for Empire Gaming all the way out on the west. Probably not aware, by the way, that Poser is still alive out in the blue sneaking up, sorry. But as Karax, he's not doing any sneaking, making a lot of noise, going for the sprays. Will be getting taken out by Lonely as there it is, Tony getting another run over kill. Bicky Bandito's facing some real trouble dealing with this BRDM. Tony, the final player from 55 Esports, about to make it 5 kills if he can take down Nicholas, but he does hop into the vehicle, and yeah, this is an interesting strategy from Nicholas, but it seems to have worked for now.
Well, Nicholas does go down to Tony, and that's going to be Banditos eliminated. Kind of a bullying moment here for 55 Esports, considering they've already qualified for PUBG Masters, and to then bring in a BRDM to begin the final day, and you're essentially trying to ruin the qualification process for all the other teams with this ridiculous vehicle. They get a double-digit kills, and with this performance now, this game, they'll join Team Mirror in essentially locking themselves into that proverbial top 8, which now becomes a top 10 due to those teams already qualifying, as Berserk and Pure RNG going toe-to-toe. Unhappy cannot survive that MP5 of Valier, who continues to bring that to the party, and he's done a good job with it. 9-9 gets eliminated for Berserk. We go down to 8 teams, but again, don't forget, in this tournament, for the PUBG Players Cup, it's top 4 that get placement points, not the top 8.
All happy men's. They're looking to try and punish onto Pure RNG as Poser is still out in the blue. Has he got many more first aid kits? Has to be the question now, because that zone is continuing to move, and you don't want to be out in phase 6 blue zone, especially in these esports settings, but it looks like he's still got plenty to work with as Karax. He's looking over to Poonage. Poonage isn't even shooting at this. He's just laying there, hoping he can maybe get a knock, but it's not to be as Tony finishes off the job. 55 Esports, 11 kills. I think 4 of those with the BRDM. Unfortunate for Empire to go out like that, but I think that's the way that it goes when you're in such an open circle. You've got no cover, and there's BRDMs about. I don't think there's any shacks left in the circle that 55 could trap players in, though, so I think we're good on that point.
Yeah, don't forget about Posa. I know you touched on him before. He's still there on that road on the western side by himself. Right now, it's an opportunity to get another 2 kills. Got the first knockdown onto Al Gang. Pull up. Chance. No. JMS able to win that battle. And Potter's reign will come to an end. Outnumbered in the end. I think got some really good damage onto Strict God as well as that knock. But yeah, just didn't have any kind of help. And 55 Esports set their sights forward ahead to 4 happy. And it's like, hang on, they've got themselves a bit of a barrier between us and them. Can't quite go through that, even with the BRDM.
Push him into the blue. Push him out to the blue almost. This is interesting. As yeah, they are using that BRDM to force them to tank damage, but that's actually he'll have that 4 HP player to get back in the vehicle. They need to try and pick up Nix, though. As you see him, he's trying to jump on the top of the rock, but he's not going to make it in time as he gets ran over as well. Oh, 55 are just bullying people right now in this circle. I was going to say, by the way, Poser, he didn't have any first aids. That means he literally made it in with his last first aid kit. So very lucky to be able to survive. Fortunately, he can't confirm the knock that he was able to get. Are they trying to trap Karax in this dip or something right now?
I think they're just having fun. I think 55 don't have really a lot to play for right now, having already qualified, and then even more so when you got the BRDM. Just have some fun with it and see what you could do. Got a little bit stuck in that dip temporarily, but now they make their way down the hill. They are getting lit up in the BRDM, but not a lot is stopping them. They actually get out. Carrick is going to get immediately knocked down. Double kill for Penta. And that's going to be now down to the final 5 teams here for the opening game today. For it, Doris only the 1 kill and 2 players now gone. Rank Phobic, Infinite Void trying to just hold on, confirm another top 4 finish for this roster. But they're running into the Masters. It feels like the Masters versus the Apprentice in terms of all placement point finishes. Team Mirror have quietly just gone about some really solid business. Another top 4 for Team Mirror. 6 kills as well. They are already firmly on top, and with this game, you would imagine they will finish on top by the end of today. They just know how to rampage. Snake is though with a good shot onto LFP, but I imagine LFP is going to get quickly revived.
So, Pure RNG, they had an MG3, which I assume that they used to do a lot of damage onto that BRDM. So I do wonder whether they're actually just going to use it for cover or whether they plan on taking that for their rotation. I mean, for the time being, they don't really have to worry about rotating. They just really have to be concerned about 4 HP up the hill. And it looks like Luminosity are also looking this way, landing some shots over towards JMS, nearly able to get the knock, but the smoke and the rock saving the day. 4 HP, they've got a difficult rotate ahead of them, but they do have 2 vehicles, so potentially Pure RNG are the team in their sights right now to try and deal with the crash.
This is where it can slow down. We saw a little bit yesterday. You get to this kind of end point because there's so much carnage in the lobby. Now everyone makes top 4. Now you've got some placement points. Now there's a lot of space as well still available, but such is the case with Miramar. It's a lot of open space, and look at the rundown that 4 Happy Mens have to traverse to even just get down to Pure RNG, who are getting the nades and the Molotovs ready. And that's a big nade from Gats. Double knockdown. Outgang in the background, trying to still heal up. He was actually able to avoid that nade because he didn't push forward towards the smoke. He was healing. So a time for him to keep now pushing forward as what will be a solo. Just deviates a little bit to the left in hopes that maybe he didn't get spotted, but you can see the shots peppering towards his location. Clearly an idea as to where he is.
Oh,
I think Valiant might have spotted him. And LG now make their way over to Pure RNG. Penta trying to turn around and do something, but it's all far too last second for Penta and for Pure RNG. LG with a clean wipe onto those 2, leaving just Valiant by himself.
LG not going to be the ones to finish the job. Onto 4 HP as it's Fakeson who does that, and that might have actually provided a little bit of respite for Valiate as he has this shack. I can't imagine that LG are really going to be able to push it with Team Mirror starting to get aggressive and flexing out. They've got Fakeson in this position. It's actually going to be Bizzler who returns the fire, so Valiate just keeping his head down for the time being and waiting for this fight to really kick off. It looks like he is going to try and take some fire, but gets caught in return. Going to pop down, heal up, and this is where things start to slow down until we get that phase 8 pop.
Unless Mirror get a knock, it really comes down to maybe that first knock scenario. I'll leave Valiant kind of out of the discussion. He's just going to sit tight, and Luminosity may be the ones to regress onto his location. Good loot down here as well if they want to get that. Smokes go out, allows them to push forward a little bit, but that's what Mirror are going to be looking for. We saw yesterday a lot of the times that once you get that first knock, that's going to be kind of your opportunity to then go. Valiant caught on the angle to LFP, so he's trying to avoid the angle to Luminosity, but then by doing so, he's unfortunately gone into the angle of Team Mirror, who now go to 11 kills. There's that knock from Fakeson onto Voxic. So that might be the go time, but a good knockback in a timely manner with the Lynx AMR by Snakers. Fakeson having some fun with the motorbike, and Snakers lands another shot. Fakeson has now been eliminated, and there's another knock from Snakers. And
that
another knock
Lynx
for
is so
Snakers.
powerful. He is popping off, finding the headshot, takes down Haven, and it leaves only LFP left up. Luminosity Gaming
Gotta
now
push.
flanking around. Can Snakers get the wipe? Because right now, you got to realize LG, they've got position. They've got cover. They've got the zone. They just have to wait for Mira.
They got the
but
win.
They don't need to wait much longer because the nade lands through. And that's Luminosity Gaming with a 4-kill win. But again, Mira stealing the show. 11 kills to go with it. Really nice work from LG, though. And I must say, they would have probably got 8 points if Mira weren't stealing all their knocks away.
Yeah, and honestly, for Luminosity, they don't really care if Mira are soaking up the points anyway, being not only a team that's already qualified, but even if they hadn't already been a team that's qualified, they're up in first by so much that it's just largely irrelevant to what LG is trying to do in qualifying for PUBG Masters, where they kind of came in today where they were kind of to the lower end of that top 10, and then now with the 4-kill win, that'll give them, 9 points. That should see them, largely get closer towards, say, the top half of that top 10 now and be looking far more comfortable with 3 games to go in the qualification process for them. And a really, really good game. Like you said, if it hadn't been for Team Mira soaking up a lot of those kills and being such a nuisance to the lobby, I think that they could have certainly had an even bigger kill game than they ended up having. And remember, they lost one early in Flood. They had to blue chip him back. He got back into the game. And it was Snakers that really just turned it towards the end. Even that shot there, and then later on with the Lynx AMR, he was the difference maker, and he's a big reason why they were able to get this win.
Talking about being a nuisance to the lobby, let's give a shout out to our top fragger for that game, the BRDM, coming in clutch, running over so many players. I'm pretty sure it nearly got a squad wipe. I think that one of those 55 players ended up jumping out to be able to finish off the job. But yeah, it's Team Mira that get themselves 14 points out of that game, but it's 55 Esports using that BRDM for all it's worth, not getting a single placement point, but 11 kill points puts them into second place in terms of points gained in that game. LG are winners all the way down in third, so it really does show that you are playing for kills this weekend, and that's something that so many teams have been able to do well. I got a feel for Bestia. They managed to get 3 knocks, and they couldn't flush a single one of them, so they get a big fat donut down at the bottom end of things. But in terms of the overall standings, Mira, they hold on firm at 67 points.
Yeah, and Razav didn't really get much. I think they got about 3 points, was it? Bandidos got essentially none. Empire, Pure RNG, Forodorus now actually surprisingly have dropped themselves, Forodorus, all around that kind of 20 mark. So if you're looking at 4 Happy Men's and below, with 3 games to go, if you can still manage to have, like a 6-kill win, for instance, you will really skyrocket up those standings pretty quickly. But dare I say, you're running out of time, Chunks. Like, you're not going to get many more opportunities. I think Luminosity and above are very much looking quite locked in for mine. Like, that would have to be quite a lot of teams to leapfrog. You'd have to essentially get 0 points in the last 3 games. It's always difficult in PUBG to kind of lock teams in because the mathematics are always there, even to the last game, that so many funny things can happen. But with obviously Mira and 55 already qualifying, and then those other teams around them, I think that top 5 is a good little kind of cutoff point for, for relatively safety. 3 games to go. It's not a lot, and when you're playing these kind of kill-heavy lobbies, your ability to go and get, let's say, traditional PUBG, you can get 15 kill wins, for instance. That's quite a bit more unlikely because there's just so much chaos.
Yeah, it's been a messy one for sure. Look, we're going to take a very, very quick break because Game 2 is about to get underway, so don't go anywhere. We will be back in a second. Told you it was going to be a quick break. We are back ready for game number 2 this evening. And in the break, we saw that PNC trailer, didn't we? I think everyone is getting excited for it now. Zenox, I have to say, I think both UK and Australia, we both got pretty strong teams this year. Who are you going to be your picks going into PNC as it currently stands?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm always going to back in the Aussie boys. And I think for me, it's always been a case of a roster over the years that has always on paper looked like they could compete and potentially even win the tournament, and then it all just kind of falls apart, and there's never really the promise that gets kind of lived up to. But I think with Extreme coming on board as a coach and the things he's kind of been able to do with Liquid might really help them. Like, to have a proper coach and someone who's been around the game for such a long time, hopefully will be a big benefit. You know, the players are as talented as ever. So obviously I'm gonna back in the Aussie boys, and hopefully this year they can get the dub.
It feels like that's always the question with the Australia team, and it feels like this year they've got a really strong roster. The coach is going to be the one to make the difference, I think. I think it's really going to come down to that consistency. And obviously we are on this new patch. I don't believe that we're going to be on this new point system, but what I would say, if we were on the same point system as we are in the Players Cup right now, I would say that Australia are almost a sure bet to win, because when you look at the fragging power on that team, like, that is near unstoppable.
Yeah, but then it's like you're looking at it from the traditional sense of fragging power in comparison to what happens if you say, well, everyone is now on this and everyone adjusts to this. It might not hold up as much. It's a finicky kind of way to look at it, but yeah, it would be quite fascinating, and certainly like a PUBG Nations Cup would be. If you're going to have any kind of tournament that you maybe bring it a little bit more mainstream, it probably would be something like a PUBG Nations Cup. As fun as this has been, and truly, I think it's just entertainment, like raw entertainment value. You know, I would still want my PGSs and PGCs and the main kind of competition to still hold true to the, you know, format that we've had for many years now. But like a PNC where it's essentially, you know, not real teams per se. Yeah, actually would be kind of interesting to watch that, you know, kind of play out, especially throughout more games played. Like with the PUBG Players Cup, you only play 8 games overall. So imagine you extrapolate that even more, and it's just non-stop chaos, and you get these kind of fights early on. It certainly can be entertaining.
Yeah, we mentioned non-stop chaos, and that's been the theme of the PUBG Players Cup, and it looks like we're going to see some chaos over in Ohang. 2 teams hot dropping, but they will be dead center circle, so it's really down to the teams to dictate how they want to take this fight. In theory, they could play this really slowly. They could wait it out, play a little bit more passive, and take the engagements one by one. But on the alternate side of things, look, you've got circle priority. If you're able to clear off this hot drop quickly, then you have free reign in terms of where you want to play in this game. And I tend to say, when it comes to these cities, I find it's better to be the last team into a city than the first team, just because it's so hard to rotate out of them sometimes. And Sam Crow, he's catching one of those players on the rotate, nearly takes down Fisher, who I'm assuming doesn't actually have himself a weapon right now. They are just causing all sorts of problems, 55 Esports, at the moment. They know that they've qualified. They are having fun this evening, and it's yet another vehicle kill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it starts off with a bang here on Tago, does it at Yai with a knockdown onto Strict Guard, and so far Bandito's winning this. They had a rough finish on the first game today, but they've started off with 2 very important kills. It's, again, the beauty of the structure is, you know, you want to take these early fights. There's benefit to it, especially if you get the advantage in terms of the loot drop and you feel like you've got better weaponry or, you know, better armor and helmets and things like that. Then you can actually also take the fight potentially on your terms. If you've looted quicker, you've got maybe high ground positions, then it's absolutely worth fighting, getting those kill points, even if you lose a player or 2. It's just the nature of this particular game with the PUBG Players Cup, where the kills are the most important factor due to the current structure. So there's no real downside to taking these fights early on. Penta up close, barrel, spray, and landed a couple of tags, and more than enough to then get that knockdown onto Posse. He'll take that free kill. Furia now down a player.
Couple more bullets. Could be the end of Kraken. But as he gets further away, you got to think his chances of survival increase as Kawazine follows up. tries to land some shots of his own. He's just not able to connect. It looked for a second like Penta was going to be able to pop that tire in that vehicle. It just doesn't spin out in the way you'd maybe expect a buggy to as he goes to the long-range fire. It looked for a second like Kawazine wanted to pull up and take this fight. Instead, they're going to position up on the hills, maybe try and gatekeep pure RNG later on in the game when that circle moves.
Yeah, and having a look at the circle as well, down towards that southeastern side, which pretty much everyone, I feel like, it's like 50% of the teams are already like dead center, and there's a red zone as well, dead center. It looks like a genuine bullseye on the map feed right now with that red zone smack bang in the middle of the opening phase 1 circle. A lot of teams still out towards the west, so there's going to be more rotates. I imagine there'll be a lot of fights on those potential rotate paths. That's a tricky spot to pull up, and DraftKings, he's going to feel the demise. Pandorito had been watching and waiting for that pickup, knowing there was one stuck at the rock, and Forever will benefit as they pick up the kill point. That's unfortunate. Best here feels like just nothing going their way so far in this PUBG Players Cup.
Yeah, things just aren't working for them at the moment. Obviously, last game we saw them playing as a 3-man. I can't tell just now whether they're playing as that again. If that's the case, then that opening knock is going to be detrimental to them, unless they can pick up that chip. Remember, we are on that new patch, so in esports mode, players are now able to recall downed teammates, bring them back in. One thing that I've heard mentioned that is not something that I took into account is, hey, if you want to call your teammate in, you're giving up your zone priority, so you better have a good position if you're going to call them in, and then they've still got to loot. So for sure, an interesting one to watch. As Tony, interesting watch right here. He's called out some of those players from Rezav rotating over to Karax, and it looks like he waits for the final vehicle before taking the shots. Karak's going to position up, tries to hit the spray, and Laucher narrowly avoiding being able to get that kill over onto Karax as the seat swap seems to fail, unfortunately.
And I'm looking at Forodoros right now. They've been great in terms of placement points, and we've kind of been praising them, but we saw the leaderboard before, and if they do have a quiet 3 games to close, they could still be in a little bit of trouble in terms of top 10. So they're going to need to certainly pick up points throughout today, and they're quite a distance away from this phase 1 circle. They're going to be coming in very, very late, and I do worry what happens if there's so much congestion on this western side as teams eventually make their way in. They could be essentially coming into potential roadblocks, and teams are willing to fight. So like that's even more of an issue in a lobby such as this, in a tournament such as this. Now, Luminosity, really good first game, pick up the win. Only a handful of kills, but you know, when you get the win, that's 5 plus 4, 9. 9 is a really good number when it comes to this kind of tournament format. They probably don't need that much more. I think, if anything, to be completely honest, throughout the remaining 3 games, so they can have some fun, get a little bit silly as Flood usually likes to do. Furia obviously find themselves down to 3 players, but towards the center of the zone, just north of Ho Hyang. And we've got ourselves an E pickup coming in as well. As we can see, the red zone, Fana. Not much Fana can realistically do here besides just pray.
We did a little split screen there. We did the same in the last game. It's worth reminding everyone we have had some roster moves. So Haven no longer a part of Furia, but Kawazine has taken his spot. They've kind of traded players to a certain extent. And the same for Gats on Luminosity Gaming, being replaced by Flood, aka Silly Mode, in this lobby. So obviously, all 4 players, I should say, have had decent performances so far. Not only yesterday, but also this evening, making good individual plays. So interesting to see how things will continue for these teams. Obviously, Mirror and Fury are both having insane performances yesterday, and sure, keeping the same true tonight, especially for Team Mirror. I think, you know, me and Gibson, we've been giving a lot of credit to Kawazine, and yeah, when you look at those player stats, he absolutely deserves it. But to a certain extent, sometimes when you focus in on one player, you almost forget about how strong the rest of the roster are. We're certainly seeing that Mirror, it wasn't down to just Kawazine.
Well, just under a minute remaining. I saw Rush to win. They were the ones to take that pick up. And clearly one team that needs to have good performances to close today. If they're going to have any chance of getting into the top 10, they're going to take this all the way to the southeastern part of this zone where it's far more vacant in terms of teams. In fact, they're pretty much going to be by themselves. No one close by except for maybe the solo Fanner who was in that red zone before, as they make their way parachuting down south of Ho Hyang. Nice early kill for Forever. They need more though. As Possa makes the parachute down as well. Furia have brought him back in, so they go back to 4 players, which is a nice feeling considering they've also got a good part of the zone as well. So nice little spot. Phase 1 is about to come to its conclusion. There is Foradoris out to the blue, out far west. They wouldn't mind a little western circle shift here rather than going more to the east, but it does go a bit more to the east. So for Foradoris, a little bit more time in that blue, a little bit more time rotating will be required.
Look at that zone. Look at how much of it is unplayable as well. This is going to be a messy phase 2. You could argue it's almost bordering on a phase 3 circle, just based off of how much unplayable is going to be inside of this. And how little teams are probably going to want to play far out on the east. A team that wants to play aggressively, though, and has done consistently through the Players Tour, is going to be Empire Gaming. They've not got themselves a kill on the board, but they're at least inside of this next zone. And with all those teams on the southwest, they could try and set themselves up for a bit of a camp here, but no. As Vinny from Bestia tries to go for a spray, hops into the vehicle. Looks like he maybe got stuck on that rock for a second. 55 Esports, they're going to be going for some seat swaps up against Forever too. So Bestia probably going to try and consolidate over on their compound.
Yeah, Bestia at the moment second last, but they're only, I think, 9 points away from a top 10 position. So a couple of good games to close and they can still get themselves into that top 10 spot. But no DraftKings, no sneak attack, not feeling 100% either. So they're really up against it. And we'll see if they can have a bit of a heroic comeback in the final 3 matches. Plus, you take into that account, 1 less game played than everyone else in the lobby. And that will go all the way through to the end of today. Empire Gaming currently in 8th position, 22 points. They would love a couple more. Nicolette's with a freebie, though, on the Pandorito, who just went for the vault in, who didn't have the information that this building was occupied. That's 3 kills now for Banditos. They had a quiet game to start on Miramar, but those 3 kill points are going to see them slowly rise those leaderboard positions. And considering they were in 9th, so that's kind of one of the gatekeep cut-off teams, and they're doing a good job of making it harder. And here comes Empire. Rush to win, need to win this fight.
There's a really nice pre-nade coming out. The second connects onto Michael. There's a third to follow. BZ nade gets thrown, but Bunko getting knocked just before it's able to pop. Smoke grenades coming out to try and get the revive over onto Michael. Shimboy watching the window, ready for one of those rush to win players to try and make the peak. Poonage, he's far away, a little too far to get the revive onto Michael. But on the other side of things, it looks like 55 Esports, they're getting involved. They're trying to third party. It's only going to be Pesadillo left up. Then he falls to Tony. So now rush to win. Eliminated now in 16th position. 55 Esports got a couple of kills on the board. They're going to look to try and add to that if they commit to this compound fight, which appears to be what they're doing. Balefrost covering the angle. There is horrible cover here for 55 Esports, but the fact that Empire, they're still trying to regroup at this point. It could be 55's opportunity to strike. Karax gets spotted out in the open, tried to go for the C4 strat, but only ends up taking out himself.
Yeah, I mean, they can obviously have fun, do whatever they want. 55 Esports and the C4 backfires altogether, but to the benefit of Empire, Shimboy will get the freest kill ever. 99 though for Berserk, still in Karak's body. So 2 kills for Empire. They dealt with Rush to win. Rush to win now, only 2 games remaining, and they're still dead last. They need to finish strong in the last 2 matches, and really both games will need to be quite big if they're going to have any chance at top 10. Further eastern shift out to the fields of Ho Hyang. You can see on the minimap, it's really only Team Mirror that's in a solid position, if you were to say it. But for Adoris, their rotating has actually kind of worked out. They'll come in on the south side of this zone, which is rather unoccupied. So by being patient on the rotate and sitting time in blue and healing up and not just kind of rushing for dead center, it's going to benefit them in the long run. Punage has been knocked down by DGT as well.
You have to imagine whoever controls that hill on the south controls the result of the game, as 55 keeping Empire under control, but Berserk are trying their best to third party onto this. They know that they are going to be the gatekeepers for these teams, but don't discount Bestia. You see them sneaking over the ridge on the minimap. They could very easily sponge up these two remaining players. It's a 1v1 in this compound, and there are no opportunities to recall players back into this fight. So you've got to imagine, with it being such a kill-heavy game mode, with so many players still left alive, it's just going to be a case of these players committing, trying to get themselves the extra point. But Balefrost, I think he just, Sam Crow sees him. This should be a relatively free kill, but Balefrost unpeaking, and it looks like they maybe both have got the read on each other now.
Yeah, but at least for Balefrost, he's inside of this building. When it comes to the red zone that's happening right now, or about to start landing down, Balefrost very much aware. He actually pushes out, tries to get a decent new position. Wants to try and get a little bit more high ground to kind of spot Sam Crow, see exactly where he is. Goes for the flash first, goes for the reposition. Sam Crow's nade, though, does get Balefrost down to close to half HP, and quick with the trigger and the draw on the barrel. And Sam Crow will put an end to Empire Gaming. They'll go in 15th position. A couple of kills, but not really a lot gained from this match of Tago. Luminosity down without Voxic. We saw that earlier in the kill feed. So they're down to just the 3 players, close by to potentially Dangerous. Gats is going to bleed out to Slabby. So potentially Dangerous will get themselves an extra kill point. Possa knocked down. So already had a rough go of things so far in this match, as Bakeson from Team Mirror gets involved. Forados have made their way to the south part of this zone. Forever have actually gone towards the very far east, even crossing the road, which is a very ambitious move, considering it's far more likely to end up around this field section close by to Ho Hyang, which would be more of the west of this phase 3 circle. We'll find out a little bit more in 15 seconds when we get the next circle pop. Here are Foradoris finally getting involved in this match after a very, very long rotate. Good shot back, considering in a moving vehicle to land that tag, even if it's just a body shot. And it does kind of go towards a little bit more Ho Hyang, but more to the south and onto this hill where we saw the fighting from Foradoris.
Said it before, I'll say it again. Whoever controls this hill controls the result of the game, and it looks like Forador is trying to take control as they take down Unhappy. It leaves Berserk with only 2 players left up. On the defense, Damoon throws out a frag. That looks good. It should be enough to finish off Infinite Void, and yes, it does. Smoking over towards Unhappy, going to try and get themselves the revive, but look at this Bestia. They're starting to rotate in on this. They could again try and third party. There's a little Sui now a little bit distracted, looking over towards Bestia. He's not able to support his teammate. Safus Katao opens up. DraftKing, though, does get taken out on the rotate as the rest of Bestia looking to commit over to the shack. Rank Phobic finishes off the job. There's a little Sui down in 14th place for Berserk as Bestia, 3-man inside the shack. Should be safe for the time being. But look, we've seen the C4s used to great effect. This is one of those positions where you could really punish a squad with one.
Yeah, and this is turning into one of the better games in terms of kills for Voradoris. Their big strength so far has definitely been those placement points, late game finishes. But 4 kills already at this point, even as a 3-man, sets them up really nicely. And as I said, he who controls that hill controls the game. Down to 3. They do have a potential opportunity if they want. Rank Phobic kind of pushing up towards this position of Bestia. And with Luminosity then on the other side, Bestia could get pinched potentially later in the future as Gabriel's going to get a knock. Penta's going to get eliminated, so there goes Pure RNG in 13th. Another pickup point for potentially Dangerous. And dare I say, is we only got 2 games after this, we're seeing a lot of these top teams very much confirming their positions inside of that top 10. And it's going to make things even far more difficult for those that find themselves outside of it going into the last 2 games. Kawazine with the knock on to Slabby, then got finished off by his own frag grenade as well. So lovely little kill for Furia, their first of this match. They've already got a lot of points though, and certainly in a solid position overall. And Phobic knocked down by Samcro. That fight happening towards said hill. And don't forget, Foradoris only had the 3 players up, so make that 2 right now as that fight does continue over there. Nade from Haven on to RDS and followed up by Fakeson, and Mirror's dominance on this lobby just continues to accentuate throughout yesterday, now even today. Non-stop action from Mirror. Sneak attack with a knock onto Bizla, and there goes Team Casito. They just cannot have anything go right for them today.
Bestia, they've just tripled their point tally by getting those 2 kill points on the board. They're going to be looking to get many more now that they have such a strong position, but the circle is really going to dictate a lot here. You got a feel for Martin over on the west there, completely surrounded by those Banditos players. Samcro trying to peek up over onto Foradora's. Bestia now going to be put in a position where they're going to be forced to gatekeep. They don't have the best line of sight up the hillside onto this fight. 55 Esports, Samcro, he's just healing through this BZ nade. He knows he is in a difficult position, but look at that. He's got 11 first aid kits. I don't think he needs to worry about burning through one of those. Foradora's going to try and get the revive onto Ranked Phobic, but Tony catching one of those players off guard. Samcro now going to get ready to reposition potentially, but no, Tony taken out with the SLR. Samcro going to hold firm on this rock, but Ranked Phobic has the read. That nade looks close. Is it going to be enough to get the knock? Seemingly not, as Samcro peeks up and punishes for the peak.
Yeah, another knock as well onto Ranked Phobic, so he's going to bleed out pretty quickly if they can't get the quick res, but luckily he's got a little bit of a helping hand from Fisquado. So he's going to get brought back up. Foradoris in the thick of this action. And now with 55 at the doorstep, this is a team that's been really solid so far to start today. Psycho going for the res onto Tony, and it is good, but pushing up Lady Kun. But shot in the back by Kerak. Talk about a bit of Overwatch there for 55 Esports. And even though Samcro does get knocked, it feels like for Foradoris, they're the ones on the ropes right now. Down to just the 2 players. They've lost Lady Kun. Not going to be able to bring them back. Tony healing in the shack. Psycho going for the loot pickup on the body. That out in the open, that is a ballsy move. Tony's still trying to heal. But now in the blue, and Tony's going to go down as well. So Ranked Phobic, in theory, is in a 1v1 against Kerak after all's been said and done. And could pick up quite a few kills if he wins this. And even still, I think there's going to be some bleed outs here anyway. Them from behind. Nix for 4 Happy Men's. There's the bleed out, so those points should go the way of Foradoris.
I got a feel for Psycho right there. He was picked up off of that respawn beacon, I believe. He dropped in. He had no loot. Tried to loot the shack. Didn't get anything. Tried to pick up the body and got punished for it as Bestia get themselves their 3rd kill point of the game. Only their 4th so far this weekend as Ranked Phobic tanking that blue damage. Yeah, that's going to be the end of him as Sneak Attack spots it out. But he knows that there's still another player around here just based on how Ranked Phobic was looking out into the blue. And it looks like Karak is going to run over, try and get some first aids. But surely it's too little, too late as that zone is chunking through. That will be the end of 55 Esports out in 9th place as Nubsky trying to make the most out of this flat top, supporting the team. He's got that jammer pack, which could have a big helping hand for this.
Yeah, it won't last too long though, especially then going into phase 6, and it doesn't even last till phase 6 anyway. It's already out, so he needs to get moving, cross that road, and as soon as he does that, Fakeson's like, yeah, I'm ready, I'm waiting. You're not getting over that road alive. DGT at the rock does have still some help, able to confirm the kill onto Haven, back in towards the smoke. 2 kills now for Forever. They can make that 3. They can make that potentially 4. Headshot landed onto Fakeson. This should be the 3rd kill once Banner does get flashed off, and in the end, Fakeson does the job for them anyway. Just the 3 kills for Team Mirror, which I say just because I'm used to seeing them have about 13 kills the way they've been going so far through this Players Cup. Forever benefiting and winning this fight. Now in a 2 versus 1 as LFP makes his way in. Does get a bit of a helping hand on that knock onto Raider. And LFP now up close to the rock. Good headshot and really good work to get the res as well off the back of that fight win, and sends Forever out earlier than they would have liked, as potentially dangerous will follow them to the grave. A gasp for the double for Banditos. They've got 7 kills, and Team Raze have 3 kills, a little bit of a rank tank pushing in as the snake in the grass and watching on as Nicholas drives back over to help out his team. Top 5. Martin trying to get into the top 4 for some placement points.
Interesting move to stand up there. Looks like he wants to try and just make the run without being spotted out as Banditos try and get players back up. Team Mirror, they've got a Panzer. They're hanging out the vehicle. What are they going to commit to here? Because this is such an open circle. I was a little bit concerned that Bestia, they're going to struggle to get down this hillside, but there are plenty of crates that they can use as a little bit of emergency cover. LFP, yeah, sweeping through the buildings with the Panzer. Not going to be much use, but Posa, he's laying prone. He's got a read on these players. He's using the bush for cover, and he has a couple of frag grenades in his pocket. Team Mirror, they're going to continue moving. This could be his opportunity to try and get some kills, but instead opting to keep his head down, keep quiet, and maybe punish Mira when they start grabbing themselves some cover. But for the time being, Posa, he's just playing sneaky, doesn't want to give anything away. He's got the read on where those players are, preps the frag. Not going to throw it just yet. As Razav start to punish, Posa could do the same. It's perfectly placed, and that's the end of Team Mirror. Out in 5th position, Posa not only confirming himself 2 huge kills, but also getting himself into top 4. And in proxy, the placement points, that BZ nade is going to be absolutely huge. It's going to demolish Martin's health. He pops the first aid to try and survive. He was already low, but surely that double will be the end of things for Team Razav. It's solo versus Bestia, and you got to remember, Bestia, they came into this game with 1 total point. This is a huge performance from them, but they really need to secure themselves the win to give them that boost into the top 10.
Yeah, and certainly with the 6 kills to go alongside what could be a potential, and at this point, likely win, should be very close to, if they're not in the top 10 by the end of this game, they'll be on the precipice. They'll be very close. 8 kills for Bandidos as well. It's very handy for them because they would have been one of the teams at threat of, say, a Bestia, but with these 8 kills, they will go up the leaderboard themselves. And Zeno does get knocked out. Nicholas being a bit of a nuisance, they'll go and get this revive. The blue not moving just yet, so it is a safe res for Vinny. Poster and Furia will get top 2. They've got the 6 kills, and well, being in 2nd place coming into this game, they are more than secure, and Bestia closed it out, and they were able to convert the 3 solos at the end as well. An 8-kill win for Bestia gives them 13 points. They had 7 coming into this game, so they will go to 20 points, which right now I think puts them at around that 10th position, or at least close to it, as Team Razav did also pick up some points. So we've got definitely things heating up here in the PUBG Players Cup going into the last 2 games.
Really impressive performance coming out there from Bestia. That will significantly bump them up the standings, but only time will tell whether that's going to be enough to qualify. They really need to get another one of those performances tonight, otherwise they are far from secure. As yeah, we look back over at the highlights, and that was a messy game from start to finish when we saw where that zone shifted. So much unplayable territory, and in the end it was all about that Soul Hill. Whoever took control of it took the game, and that reigned true with Bestia. Unfortunate for Foradoras, they put themselves in a really good position, but they just weren't able to clean up those fights. They're definitely a squad where they like putting themselves in a compound, making the most out of it, and honestly, 55, they just surrounded them.
Yeah, I mean, 55 have really come into today with a clear mindset to be aggressive, have some fun, no risks attached to anything. They're being a team already who's qualified, and even with their performances so far from yesterday and then today, again, similar to Team Mirror, had they, not been in that position as an already qualified team, they would already be very comfortable as it is anyway. We get to see that nade of the replay there from Posse, which was absolutely massive and really set himself up for what ended up being a top 2 finish. Credit to Bestia, though. Like, when things aren't quite going your way in a tournament, it's very difficult sometimes to turn that around, and for them to be able to come out and get the 13 points necessary. Had they, had another 1 or 2 point performance, I would have probably worried a little bit going into the last 2 games, but this sets them up nicely. I don't think they need to have another 13-point game either. I mean, if they do, that would be great, but they can kind of go back now to getting 4, 5, 6 points a game in the last 2 to probably secure themselves the top 10 position, because this has just seen them absolutely skyrocket in terms of their overall points. Bandidos as well, double digits, 10 points, and with them being around that sort of bottom end of the top 10 coming into that game, I think they had a poor match 1. That does wonders for them as well.
We'll have to take a look at the overall standings, though, see how that has shaken things up, because I imagine that a couple of teams have made significant moves, and Bestia, they are now within 2 points of the top 10. Remember, it's the typically the top 8 that qualify, but Team Mirror, 55 Esports, they're both already qualified, which opens up 2 more spots for that $20,000 Masters. So a lot to play for and not much time to get yourself those points on the board. There are only 2 games remaining, and you got to remember, every point that teams like Razav, like Empire are an extra point that teams like Bestia and Berserk need to get to be able to close up that gap. But that is game number 2 out the way. We're at the halfway point of the evening. 2 games remain. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
So it's Bestia who get themselves a much-needed win in game number 2 of the evening, significantly bumping them up the leaderboard, but it's still not enough to secure them in the top 10, with only 2 games to go, Zenox. If you're around that 8th to 10th place right now, how many points do you think that you would need to really feel secure?
Yeah, I was kind of just giving that a quick thought. I think realistically, I'm expecting if you can get over 35 points, you're safe. Like you're probably close to 100% safe. With 2 games to go, there's not a lot of wiggle room. A lot of teams would have to, you're thinking, imagine you're on 35 points and you're in 11th. I just don't know if that's going to happen with what we've seen so far through the amount of games that we've already played from yesterday and today. That's like 6 games, and yeah, to then think that's going to change, 35, yeah, I don't think so. I think 35 is probably the rough figure. So you got a couple of teams around that 30-point mark that only need a couple more through the last 2 games. It probably means as well, if you can get closer to 30, you might be then on that cutoff around that sort of 10th position, which means for obviously your bestias who are in 11th right now, still need a little bit more. They probably don't need to go and get, like an 8-kill win or anything in this next game. There's not that much pressure, but you still got to keep the scoreboard ticking over. You still need to get 5-6 points, and then you're set up pretty nicely going into the last game. Such is the nature of this tournament structure, because it's so kill heavy. There's going to be a lot of teams that kind of get 3 to 5 points, not as many that are going to go pick up 15 plus.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially in this points format as well. It's all about those kills, but we are getting ready to Rondo. As we've seen the playing path, it is very heavily favouring the northern sides. Teams probably going to have to be forced into some ult drops. And what I will say is we've seen a lot of Ryan circles around that northern area. I think this playing path definitely favours those right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. We had a pretty decent Rondo yesterday, so hopefully that can kind of follow suit as well today, and then we close on Erangel in the next match. So the penultimate match now for this week at the Players Cup. Really good opportunity for those that are outside the top 10, and that is a wonderful circle. There's not a lot of water when it comes to Rondo, and look, the river is a skinny river, but it's still something to kind of keep in mind, and the way that it kind of tracks, it's almost like this hook shape. You know, so it's not rather, you know, just straight across. And certainly the north side, there's more of that straight across river. But then on the eastern side, it kind of comes back down. Luminosity, dead center of it. Paradorus, good spot as well. Over to Muharan. And yeah, I think now the focus is certainly going to have to now be on those teams outside the top 10 and what they can do. The onus is going to be on them. And again, it's not like traditional PUBG where you think, all right, maybe get to late game and then play from there. We don't want to lose players early. You need to take the fights when they're best suited on your terms and put yourself in the best position to win these fights comfortably. Even if you only walk away with 1 or 2 kills, set up for the rotates. Make sure that you can get close positions to roads as teams are going to be pushing in towards the circle. Early circle position is only favorable based on your ability to then get kills rather than it is to get late game finishes. So that's going to be a bit of a mindset. Bestia, just north of Jadina City, will be probably wrapping in on that eastern side. There's a lot of teams up towards the northwest, so it's going to be very fascinating to see how they all are going to be able to manage to fit in towards that western side phase 1 without fighting each other. I imagine we're going to see quite a lot of rotate fights. Team Casito, quiet today. I think we saw a little bit more of them yesterday.
Oh, no.
And they've really started to fall away as Bran hits the only rock within about a mile.
Don't map and drive, kids. As Bran, yeah, he's already taken a little bit of damage. Could potentially take more, but it looks like Team Casito, they've got the read onto Belfrost. They're going to be able to get the knock. And yeah, nobody from Empire going to be around to try and get the revive. So maybe they can get down to him, pick up that blue chip, bring him in later on in the game. But as of now, it isn't looking too likely as Team Casito going to take control of this compound, loot it up, and continue their rotate. But anyone who's paying attention to the map stream and has been watching this weekend will be aware that Foradoras has had a very strong performance, and right now they have a very strong position inside this zone. They get free reign of this northeastern side. They're going to be able to pick where they want to go, and it tends to be with Foradoras that they have good decision making. They pick those really strong compounds and they can consistently make it into the late game. So if you want to monitor that, make sure you do !map in chat. Pull that up on another screen if you have one, because it just adds that little bit of extra info, and maybe you can copy some of these rotations in your own matches.
Yeah, and it's not always really just being, you know, getting, you know, feeds. For instance, that last game that we just had on Tego, they had to rotate for many circles as RDS. Well, it's rotated into the middle of the road, and Flood's going to pick up the easiest kill he's probably had all tournament. Quickly flushed off by Voxic. So Furia lose one early. Currently in second place on leaderboard are Furia. They're more than qualified with the 42 points. They can't drop out of that top 10. Bizzler gets a free P as well onto Samcro. Important points here for Luminosity, considering they came into this game on 29, so this gets them now up to 31. Now they're going to take this fight at the warehouses against 55 Esports, who are more than happy to oblige to take this fight. Snakers and Voxic go down. But with that knock onto Psycho, it ends up now being a 2 versus 2. Flood and Bizzler. Flood watching the outside. Unable to land all of the tags though onto Tony. He's made his way into the building. Bizzler has to fight him up close. Can't win the battle. And now just down to Flood. Tony watching the window, using that third-person camera to see if he can spot Flood, who ends up winning it. Swings the corner, but Carrick comes in to save the day, and it's a full squad wipe for 55 Esports. So only the 2 kill points for Luminosity in this match. It sees them go to 31 points going into what will then be the last game chunk. So that'll be around the mark in terms of safety, more than, say, unsafe, but not ideal to go out this early and give themselves now only 1 game to probably get the last couple of points really needed to secure top 10.
It's also not ideal to have not only Furia, but also Mirror extremely close by. It's Furia, however, who decide to push onto this position. Karak's got himself the sword off. Going to try and take some close-range shotgun fights. As they use the smoke, it looks like 55. They want to split up between these two buildings. They know that they're vulnerable to nades. There's, Tony, vulnerable to his own if he didn't get behind that shelving unit. 55 climbing up onto the top of the warehouse, trying to get some angles onto those Furia players that are pushing. It's Kawazine just holding that corner, allowing the rest of his team to move in. Smokes are being fired up into the loft, maybe trying to prevent those high angles, but there are so many open spots that he's going to be able to see through. Posa hasn't got a helmet, so a couple of shots to the head. He will be not long for this world. Kraken holding with the M249. One of those mags can clear out a full squad if you use them effectively.
The one good news for Luminosity is the fact that they also only fed points over to a team that is largely irrelevant when it comes to the points. 55 Esports being an already quad team. So for Luminosity, it's not as if they, died to a pure RNG or an Empire Gaming who are close by to them on the leaderboard. So there's not that sort of two-pronged effect of you being eliminated and giving points over to others. So they can at least take some solace in that. And they were more than ready to take that fight, such is the case when it comes to, this current structure. A little jump spots Furia on the corner. A little cheeky here from Karak. There is one down below. Here's Kraken just holding on the edge of the building. Again, it's only the 3 members for 55 Esports, so they are in a tricky position here in terms of pushing out. They haven't quite got the numbers, but it is only a 3-man Furia. They won't be aware of that. And of course, no RDS. Lost his life on the road to Luminosity. Well, the S12K. Oh, it's a deadly weapon in these close quarter positions. And if Kraken decides to vault that window, he will be dead.
Kraken waiting for the door to open. It's Karak. He wishes he had that nade earlier. Jump scouting. He had 2 players dead to rights. No frag to use in the position. Karak tries to move out as Furia. Just being so cautious about taking this one. They realise 55 have probably got the revives in. Sure whether they know. It's down to only a 3-man, but either way, Furia, they lost a player on the rotate earlier on. Kawazine trying his best to keep the heads down, but if anything, that's just denying info from Furia. As Tony's got the read, the zone continues to close in. As do Team Mirror, they can hear the slow burn of this fight, and they are sending Vanna over towards this direction. Doesn't look like they want to fully commit onto it, which I can't blame them for, but I'm sure if they see plenty of knocks in the kill feed, they'll be quick to swarm in and clean up the leftovers. But for the time being, both teams using that third person, knowing that they could easily expose themselves. Posa opting to use the Dragonov in this situation. It almost looks like he wants to get an angle through those windows, take the single shots to find an opening.
And I should note, this is pretty much center position phase 1. So in terms of, is this worthy? Well, I mean, firstly, but these 2 teams are already qualified as it is anyway, but you want to play it out and Fakes and just getting some information. But there's also really no need to move. Like, there's no rotate position needed right now for either of those 2 teams. So you can just hold out at the warehouse and just play the little hide and seek game, if you will. The map is quite fascinating because there's really only one team, which is Rush to Win, that's decided to play kind of very far out to the east. No one's also up north. Like, 45% of this circle is what's being played right now. As Kawazir finally gets an angle onto Psycho up in the rafters. He's going to get caught, not flush straight away, but this might just push 55 Esports into action. Kawazir, though, caught through the window. It's a very open warehouse. No angles are safe. Carrick, though, does get traded, so at least a 1-for-1, which keeps Furia in the advantage position. Only Tony is left standing, and he's in the other warehouse, and there's already a member in there, which is Kraken. And look at that circle pop as well, and there's a decent amount of water here on this phase 2 circle. This is about to get really spicy.
Oh, Tony, you thought for a second he might be able to make the clutch play, but Posa quickly cancels the revive and gets over to finish the job. As Furia, they've won the fight. They've got a decent enough position, but That circle, it's shifted, it's pretty central, and yet again, for Adoras, they've made the rotate, they were proactive with it. They are in a very strong position going into this next phase. Team Mirror, another strong spot. They're looking over towards Pure RNG. LFP hopping in the vehicle. It looks like Mirror, they want to try and gatekeep Pure RNG from being able to get into this circle.
Yeah, and you can do that because of this phase 2 pop has a lot of unplayable kind of areas in terms of where you really don't want to be. Slabby getting tagged up by Bestia, forced back inside. That would be an ambitious shot from DraftKings. Bestia will feel a little bit more comfortable off the back of that previous win on Tego. Feels like it's been a slow start here on Rondo, but even still, we've had 11 deaths in the first 11 minutes. Probably just the case of watching Furia and 55 Panda together for so long. And finally, we kind of head back outside away from the warehouse. Team Razab, they know full well they still need some points. Currently in 10th, so they're the gatekeepers right now in terms of the overall leaderboard, and only got the 3 players as well. They don't have a 4th right now. Michael eliminated. Empire actually getting slowly closer and closer to dropping out of this top 10 as well, so they need to make sure that they don't slip out, that they don't end on a limping note here on the Players Cup. Nick's eliminated for Happy Men's. At the moment in 14th position on 11 points. Need to try and be a threat going into the last game. And really, that's the thing as well for these teams towards the bottom. You don't want to go into the last game essentially needing like a 10-kill win. You want to just try and get as close as possible so that even, say, 6-7 kill performance might then be enough. So you don't want to have to do it all in match 8. Got to have a good performance here in match 7 as well. But for Happy Men's, they move up, and sneaking up is Sneak Attack. Double kill. Well, it looks like he feels a bit better today. A 3K for Sneak Attack. Huge for Bestia. And off the back of the win in the last game, those 3 points, as of right now, gets them very much tied for that 10th spot.
This is what we wanted to see from Bestia. They have really performed well in our previous game, and they are sticking true to form right now. 3 kills on the board, and much needed ones on the cusp of qualification as it currently stands, as Nicholas tries to find the spray over onto another team on the edge of qualification right now, which is Empire. They came into tonight over in 8th position, but they have been slipping down the standings slowly but steadily. They again need themselves a lot of kills between this match and our final tonight to be able to solidify their spot in the top 8, or I guess in the top 10 at this point, as what a circle shift. I told you we've been getting a lot of endings around here. When we saw that phase 1 pop, I didn't think it was going to go there. But now Empire, I would assume that they probably try and take this compound, play the very edge of it as long as they can, because there is just no cover in the northern side of this zone.
Yeah, I mean, this ends up being an absolute bloodbath of a circle, and it's only phase 3. That is incredible. This is going to get even worse before it gets better. And all those teams on the south side of the zone having to all push in, try and get up this hill, all having to fight each other. And looking at some of those teams that really need the points, there's quite a few amongst them. So it's going to get really hot and heavy. I mean, for your team Mirrors, certainly they don't have to worry too much considering where they're at, but Rush to Win coming over from Muho Pan. They're going to go north side of this river, close by to, of course, Empire, who are starting to look a little bit desperate and a little bit worse for wear. So there's a couple of teams that really need points that are going on the north side. A lot of the more safer teams are probably on that south side, outside of a couple. For Adoris, pretty comfortable with their position right now, but that can change rather quickly as those teams towards the south can start to make their way in. Then you can't park there. I don't know what's happened here. That might be a DC. Or is he just... Is he prone?
I think he's disconnected, surely.
I think it has to be a disconnect. The way that Denyo is just kind of standing still. That's very unfortunate for Rush to Win, and they go down to a duo for the team in dead last.
Foradoras going to make the most out of this hillside. They are very exposed from the north, but at least as it currently stands, they don't have to worry about it too much. Bandidos getting themselves another kill on the board, taking out Pesadello from Rush to Win. As Foradora's been dead center in the previous circle, now having a really strong position, but they still have to try and navigate Team Mirror. And if Foradoras want to use this eastern bridge to rotate, they will have to make the push. And right now, Team Mirror, they are using the verticality to their advantage. They're staying down low, and they're not necessarily committing onto this fight. Sure, they're probably going to take it sooner or later, but right now, they can dictate the pace. As Haven does get tagged up a little, they just keep their heads down. This Demon, well, he is just out on his own. Fanner, he will open things up. Fuscatao, the first player to fall from Foradoras. And yeah, both teams committing onto this, maybe not aware that Pure RNG are making a move, and it looks like Team Mirror, they heard the vehicle, they've repositioned, they realized they were exposed as Poser. You do not want to make this crash when there's a Panzer looking your way, but if there's a player who can pull it off, it's gonna be Kawazine as he comes in support his teammate. He ends up falling. It's only Kraken left up here from Furia, and well, you can only crash so many compounds before it goes wrong for you.
Yeah, there's always going to be that next one where it probably goes wrong, and the Warehouse is a really strong position. Numbers there for potentially dangerous. They looked ready to defend that position and certainly were able to ward off Furia. Massive circle pop, phase 4, by the way. Gets rid of the northwest part of that phase 3 zone, tries to reduce the amount of water as possible, and it brings it back over towards Bestia, Foradoras, and around this more southern part. So for those teams that went closer towards the north side of the river, it's not going to benefit them whatsoever. You're going to have to find a way to get across now, which is not going to be an easy thing to do. Forever in a really bad spot, in a really bad way, and Team Casino need to benefit from this. They need the kill points. They need to try and punish them. The blue as well, moving in 10 seconds though. So Team Casino will have to start making their way in, and that's not going to be a free thing to do. They need to make sure they're ready for the fights ahead, and there are teams ahead of them. Another kill point for Bestia confirmed with that elimination of Kraken. Sneak attack does get knocked down, but so far this has been a game where Bestia have picked up 4 kills. They're just chipping away at that points per game average very nicely going into the last game. They will still be a threat of potential elimination, but they will also be a big threat of getting into that top 10.
Pure RNG, I'm a little bit worried about this split, but now that Mirror are moving away, maybe puts things at ease a little. Poonage and Shinboy both still standing here for Empire. Looks like Shinboy decided to make a wide rotate into the blue, but Poonage, he's just going to be laying prone, keeping his head down, hoping not to get spotted out by that Mirror player who hops out of the vehicle. It could work out as a free kill here, but Poonage being so cautious not to take the shots. This is huge from Empire. They've set Shinboy up on the other side. He's looking over in this direction. Probably going to actually try and take some shots towards Haven if the rest of Mirror post up, but that's not to be the case as Poonage just sneaks in. Shinboy needs to start thinking about making a move as well. Most likely just going to try and send that vehicle across the river to get something, if anything. But Berserk, they are posted up over by this bridge. They are going to cause problems for every team that's rotating by. There's Demon. Oh, that's a huge C4 from Lowly into Berserk, taking down all of that hard cover. And only 2 players left up, and Happy's out in the open. He's not being spotted out, so going to try and sneak in from the off angle to take down some of the Banditos players. But it's all on to Damoon as he looks over to Shinboy. Will be able to steal the kill away from Fakeson. Not like Mirror need it anyway. Yai confirms Lil Sui as now gets himself another. That's 4 points on the board now for Forever as Unhappy tries to make something happen from the off angle. It is not to be. It's only Damoon left standing as the nade flushes out. Unhappy. I don't think Banditos realized that this player has been third party by Team Casito as they just sweep through. I think that they think this is the solo player. This is where the final player left is. Surely they have to have a read that Damoon is still inside this building.
Yeah, and this building's not in the next zone as well. So in 40 seconds, that blue's going to get moving. There's the circle pop too. And it's very much just out in the open. There's just nothing really left in except for the building compound that we've got for Paradoras. It's incredible that they keep finding themselves in this position. Foradoras has just been tremendous all tournament long of getting themselves into the best spots possible. Berserk eventually lose Damoon as Nicholas confirms the kill for Banditos. Talk about 2 really big games in a row for them after a slow match 1 where they didn't really pick up points, found themselves tumbling towards, you know, the bottom end of that top 10. Now they're really surging towards that top 5 going into the last game. Martin knocked down by Robert for Team Casino. Robert and Brent need to pick up some extra points here for Team Casino, being in that bottom 3 position, and they do convert a couple more. That's 4 kills, 2 players still up, and they've got themselves at least onto the south side of this zone. They don't have to worry about the river, but they've got Bestia backfilling in behind them, so they've got to be ready for this, and it's a 4-on-2. Bestia have really picked up their form today.
Bestia now with a bit of a difficult rotate in. They've got a very open area of terrain ahead of them, so I imagine they're probably just going to hug onto the blue as Yayi takes down Bran. Robert, the final player left up, is going to be caught with the seat swap. That is the end of him. As Bicky Bandidos now on 7 kills. Absolutely huge performance from them this weekend, way above what we've seen out of them in the past. And Empire, they just continue to slip down the standards as Poonage goes down to the nade. A difficult rotate for them, but let's be honest, would you rather take a risky rotate out in the blue or take a fight head-on-head against Mirror? As Penta, he's taking a head-to-head fight up against potentially dangerous. The nade is close, but it's just a little bit too short, and Nightavon gets ready to respond with one of his own.
Yeah, nice job from Penta to get that knock, but couldn't quite get the second. Didn't have enough time to be able to convert the potential. And 40 seconds till phase 6 now. Everyone's going to try and hug this south side. The north side of this zone is very much down this hill, out in the open kind of terrain. So over to the compound towards the very far eastern side. That's no longer in this circle. So for phase 5, this is not in. 25 seconds, and that blue is going to then envelop this position. Panzer out for Gabriel. And does land that onto Zyko. Straight through the doorway of the fence line. Gets the elimination to follow. Valiant still with this MP5K. Continues to make the most of this little weapon. And potentially dangerous have been wiped out with a combination of pure RNG and Bestia. Bestia go to 7 kills and are firmly now entrenched in the top 10 for a team that's played 1 less game than everyone else. And coming into today, they were a bottom 3 team. They have just turned it on when it matters the most. Phase 6 circle pop. That one last compound now will no longer be in.
As now RDS, as the solo for his squad, is just going to be laying prone in the center, hoping that he doesn't get spotted. For Adoras, they pushed into this compound when they noticed it was free. It was center circle, but now it's been shifted away from, and Pure RNG are doing everything they can to prevent the rotate out of it. They have to make a move themselves right now, down a very open hillside and deal with an on-form Bestia, but they do have Valiate holding down to the south, covering for the cross, but that zone, it is starting to move any second. So Pure RNG, they need to pick things up now, and Bestia, they are already repositioning to try and cover these angles.
Thanks, and knocked down by Gus, and more work from Bicky Banditos. It feels like a lot of these teams in this particular game, match 7, that were around the lower end of the top 10, have really just rocketed themselves up that leaderboard, and it's going to make it far more difficult for those outside of the top 10 to get in now going into that last game. As Doris make their move, they had to get out of that compound, now into the fray. Infinite Void, and that kill got stolen by Agus. Team Mirror, only the 2 kills for a team that's usually got a far more heavy amount, but there's 2 more for Haven. Quick little double up with the nade. 3 of the 4 kills he's now got individually. We go down to the final 6 teams. There's only 13 alive though, Chunks.
Haven, the solo for Team Mirror, looking up the hill, still punishing Banditos, as at the last second he takes down Lowly. Only going to be August left up now for the Banditos, but again, they have had a huge performance so far this weekend. They are looking relatively secure to make it into the top 8, as Haven jumps out the vehicle. Thought he was going to take a little bit of damage then, but no, it continues to roll. This could trick the Banditos into thinking he's a lot closer than he actually is, but August pops up, finds the kill as Legit's Demon, the final player from Rush to win. Not living up to his name, he's sneaking in to try and get this win. Does take a couple of shots, so his position has been given away, but nobody is looking down towards it, because right now all the noise is coming from this Team Bestia fight.
Yeah, and Bestia have set themselves up beautifully that in the last game they can be a little bit less stressful. They might still need a point or two, but I don't even think they might even need that with how dominant they've been in the previous game where they won back on Tago. Very likely they may still even have the opportunity to win here on Rondo. They got a really, really good position. Big split, DraftKings out towards the west, so they got a lot of zone control, and they got all 4 players up. This is very winnable for the back-to-back for Bestia. RDS is solo, Agus is a solo. There's quite a few solos, and then there's pure RNG that have got the trio, so it's a very, very winnable chance. Looking likely now for Bestia to go back-to-back. Rush to win. They would love to make top 4. They need all the points they can get and muster up. Dare I say, though, I don't think it's going to be all that possible to now make top 10 from being in dead last. They've only got the 1 kill point still. So far, no placement points. They're not in that top 4. So 1 point probably isn't going to be enough for the team that is currently in 16th. These nades, such long distance, low. If that next one bounces, and it will, we got to watch that one perfectly. Legits will go down. Big nades from DraftKings. He runs out of nades, but he converts the kill, and they go to double digits.
Absolutely huge performance from Bestia here. They have really picked it up this evening. And you got to think if they take down a couple more pure RNG players, then they are going to be the favourites to take the win. DraftKings still anchoring down on the west, looking out for August as the rest of Bestia start to sweep in. Still being cautious of pure RNG, who right now are just relying on this tiny little ridge that they're able to play. They've got the valley. They could try and prone down it, run down it, but for Banditos, it's all down to August. RDS, the final player from Furia, will fall in the center of the circle. Sneak attack, maybe trying to get himself a fresh vest, ready for this final fight. 11 kills on the board for Bestia, as DraftKings is in a really nice position to try and punish pure RNG. He's spotted out the shield. He's trying his best to pre-fire, but he just doesn't have a clean enough angle with Gats laying prone.
A big day from both Pure RNG and Bestia, Bicky Banditos as well. I mean, these 3 teams that are remaining in this game have just been tremendous throughout the 3 matches that we've had so far. You know, Gus does get eliminated, but a 3rd place, 9 kills. They're going to be secure. They're going to be top 10. I don't think there's any world in which they will miss out now. Honestly, the gap that has very much grown after, you know, the match 6 and now match 7, those outside the top 10, I don't know how many of those teams are actually going to have a realistic opportunity going into the last game. It's a very, you know, rapid fire kind of tournament. You've got to get points on the board early, and you don't want to leave it down to that last game in a tournament point structure such as this, where, you know, you can't get a huge amount of points for even winning. So you need to go and get a lot of kills, and those teams are down the bottom for a reason. They're struggling to get said kills throughout, you know, 7 matches played. Hard to then envision to see a rush to win, a team Casino or 4 Happy Men's. What are the capabilities of them going and getting, say, 10 kills in the last game? Probably on the unlikelier side. As we close this one out now with Bestia having the man advantage, they've also got the zone advantage. So Pure RNG certainly backs up against that blue wall. Gats, well, now he gets spotted as well at that deployable shield. Bestia have got Pure RNG trapped up against the blue.
Just waiting as the clock ticks down, knowing that Pure RNG will have to expose themselves. It's all about discipline from Bestia, as Enzito peeks up over the ridge, trying to find an angle, but now he's battling the blue himself, just waiting for those players to stand up, hoping he can find the head, but it's actually Bestia who overexposed themselves first. Vinny going to be getting caught with a Molotov as DraftKings opens up, takes down Penta. He tries to find a second, but has no joy with it. Gats, Valiate playing together as a duo as Gats opens things up, takes down Vinny. Penta will be confirmed on the flush. Gats finds another. He's only got 13 bullets. He needs to land every shot to the head. He does, but he isn't able to get the knock out of it. Sneak attack trades 2 versus 1. A sneak attack going for the heal. They've got the read on where Valiate is, trying to spray through the dirt, but not able to get it. They flush out Gats, trying to deny the intel. The Molotov is close. It's not close enough. They see Valiate, but Valiate sees them. Takes down sneak attack. It's down to a 1 versus 1. He's got the 3x on the MP5, going for the bandage, decides not to hit the first aid, but now he does. Still has the heals, still has the ridge, as Enzito is starting to get panicky. Out comes the flashbang. This could be the peak that Valiate was looking for, but the zone is on his back. The smoke is starting to bloom. More flashes follow up, trying to deny Enzito any info whatsoever. Pushes into the smoke, and I don't think Enzito got the read that he's inside here. Surely he's now going to hear the audio cues, but both these players running around in circles, neither able to spot out the other. Valiate needs to clutch this out for his team. They were in a tricky position, but he has put in work. Enzito spins out, but it's Valiate that comes out on top, and a huge clutch from Valiate for pure RNG. 9 kills and the win.
Yeah, that was a 4v2 as well. After that initial knock going the way of Bestia, that is a huge turnaround. And with the MP5K of all weapons, Valiant's been rocking it all tournament long. And this time he's able to clutch out the 1v1 to get the chicken dinner for pure RNG. 14 points gained this match and should very much solidify them a top 10 position heading into the final game. They will look very, very safe. What a fascinating ending. Nothing taken away at all by Bestia for what was still another incredible performance. They would have liked the back-to-back chicken dinner, but ultimately they've done a tremendous amount of work over the last 2 games to set themselves up beautifully heading into the last match. A fun game of Rondo Chunks where we had intriguing circle pops. We had these early fights at the warehouse. Luminosity were involved early on. Certainly one of the more highly entertaining matches that we've had here for the Players Cup so far this week.
And what an ending as well. Huge clutch coming in there from Valiate, from pure RNG. But not to discount the work that Gats was able to put in with such limited ammo, finding those opening knocks. And there we saw the Panzer on Panzer violence that took down one of those pure RNG players earlier on. But still, absolutely massive game. And a huge one from Foradoras with that nade as well. A team that they got themselves into such a strong position, but they really struggled to be able to rotate out of their compound when that zone shifted away. Of course, we have to get a replay. Huge performance again from Bestia, but it's Valiate that clutched out as the solo in the 1 versus 3.
Yeah, I mean, a tremendous performance from both of those two teams throughout that game. You take nothing away from Bestia. They still end up technically with the total amount of points higher than pure RNG because of the extra kills. So, you know, PUBG's a funny old game. Technically, pure RNG won, but who's the real winner? Bestia got the most amount of points, and that's what ultimately matters. Bandidos too, absolutely. 2 huge games back-to-back for them. I'm pretty certain it ends up being about 20 points in the last 2 games. So they've really soaked up a lot of points, and that's kind of what's happened here from the top 3 of this game. You go 17, 14, 11, then down to 4, and then there's a lot of teams with 4. I said before this game, Chunks, like the average kind of kill numbers that you see or the point numbers that you see in this tournament structure outside of, let's say, you know, the top 3 is roughly 3 to 5. So you don't really get a whole lot of points in a given game, and this has shaken up the standings massively now as we see, and straight away I look towards who's 10th. Luminosity's on 31 points, and I think that would be relatively safe unless something crazy happens. They would have to have both Empire and Razav get enough points to see 31 not be enough to make top 10. So I think Luminosity will still edge this out. For me, it comes down to Empire Gaming versus Team Razav heading into the final match with Berserk kind of in the wings as well.
Speaking of the final match, we are going to take a very, very short break, but we will be back in just about a minute. Told you it was going to be a short break because we are keeping things rapid fire tonight. 3 matches out the way and only 1 remains, and the scoreboard is close. We are heading back to Erangel, and we will see which teams are able to make it, which teams are not. It is really close around that 10th place position, which, remember, is that cutoff for the $20,000 Masters event. A lot on the line for these teams.
Yeah, and a lot of focus will go into Empire and Team Razab for me in this final game. Obviously, Berserk could still do something crazy. Obviously, Luminosity is not fully safe, so maybe it's kind of those 3 to 4 teams that you're going to be looking at in this last game. But I think for those that are certainly 9 and above now, it's all kind of locked in. Obviously, we've spoken at length as to the reason why it's a top 10 instead of a top 8 with 55 and Mirror. But I just want to say for Bestia, what a performance here today in the last day. Like, they've played 1 less game than everyone else. Sneak Attack's not feeling his 100% best. The ability for them to go from being like bottom 3 to now top 7, 37 points, more than enough. They've qualified. And then also Bandidos as well, 41 points. And that's 21 points in 2 games for Bandidos. They were around that 20-point mark after our first match tonight, Chunks. So like that is a huge turnaround for them. Obviously Team Mirror are so far out in front, 30 points essentially over the Fury, so they will win this week as well. So not only have they already qualified, but they're also going to win week 2 anyway. And then Fury in second, close by to 55. So those 3 teams, especially at the top, have been clearly prevalent throughout this week, yesterday and today. But yeah, it's going to be huge focus. Empire Gaming, Team Razab, 3 points the difference. That can change really quickly. All it takes is, Empire walk away with 0 points, Razab get 4 kills, and those 2 teams will swap places. So a lot to keep an eye out here in the last game for this week's Players Cup. Yeah,
Pure RNG, they locked themselves in with that performance in our previous match. I don't have any doubt that they will be able to qualify. And I want to go back to that clutch from Valley 8 because that was absolutely massive. I was losing my mind when I saw that. You really thought that Bestia had that game in the bag. We're going to be able to get the back-to-back wins, but, anyone who's been around a while knows how strong Valley 8 will be, and anyone who's watched the Players Tour knows how strong that Panzer is. Olevi getting taken out by Nubsky as Forever equalising the fight, joining the lobby with only 3 players. Now tying things up with Team Casito, but that shotgun, it's not going to be much use at this kind of range. He needs to close up the distance or hit some nutty shots with that pistol.
2 teams here, actually, that are 13th, 14th at the moment. As it stands, 12 points away from, a top 10 position. So if you can win this fight, win it cleanly, that might be 3 to 4 points. That then lowers the gap for the rest of the game and gives you, a small window, a small opportunity. That door would be slightly ajar, but you would have to snowball this particular fight into a big result. Obviously, Alariv already knocked down. So right now, it's Forever at a slightly in the better position. Nubsky, I think, maybe going for a wrap here down to the south from what I can see on the minimap. But Brand's got that high ground advantage, and it looks like they might be able to get this revived. Although, TJT, he's watching that angle, and he got a quick double. He knew that they wanted to go for that res, and then spots Brand on the roof and leaves Robert as a solo. And this would officially knock out Team Casito from PUBG Masters.
Let's not forget as well, Bestia, a team that have had a strong performance tonight. They're starting to rotate in from the west. The same being said for 55 Esports now, as Robert takes down Pandarito, trying to make that final stand. He's got the S12 in hand, tries to land the shots, but Nubsky connects with the headshot, then to the body, and that's the end of Team Casito out in 16th position. Forever, they are a bit preoccupied. I don't think they've realized that Bestia are now starting to close their way in as Sneak Attack, live it up to his name, sneaks up over on towards DG. Out comes the nade. That might be enough to confirm yet another flush, which is what they need as it currently stands. So much damage being found, but they haven't realized that now 55 Esports are also moving in. Sneak Attack finds 2 points on the board, and Zito rotates. Surely he's got to spot out that vehicle.
Yeah, and it's horrible as well. Forever, you get your 4 kills. You think maybe we could do something crazy, but now you're down to just that solo. 55 Esports getting involved as well around Milter. By the way, none of this around that opening phase 1 circle. This is far outside of the zone. Blue chip tower, of course, close by. So it might be the reprieve potentially for Nubsky if he can get those blue chips, bring them back. But Bestia surrounding him, that's going to become a very tricky prospect. I think 55 Esports may end up thinking about just leaving this and heading towards the circle. Does Nubsky get out of this, get some blue chips, bring some teammates back? It's the only world in which Forever could still potentially qualify for PUBG Masters. It would have to be an all-time kind of game. You basically have to bring your teammates back. Then you've got to loot back up, make your way to the zone, and then still probably go and get another 8 kills or so, plus potentially a top 4. It would be one of the all-time great comebacks if it does eventuate. But Bestia, again, are just sitting around waiting to see if they can get some noise from Nubsky.
So close. Around 10th position. Bestia cannot take the risk of overcommitting to this, going out early. They struck when they had the opportunity, but now with 55 nearby, they're definitely slowing things down. 55 will make the move. I think they managed to get the blue chip off of that solo player. So Bestia, at best, going to be playing as a 3-man. Sneak attack, he's got the shotgun, he's closing in. You'd imagine they have the read on the final player from the way that Sneak is playing. Looks like he's actually going to try and Molotov off that doorway. Not just yet, though, waiting for the support from his teammates. Knows how powerful that shotgun could be. Opens things up with a flash. Not pushing off of it. Not sure whether he's just trying to deny the audio info as Trafficking pushes up. Whether that's an opportunity to open up. He flashes himself, gets caught with one in return, but turns away in time. Spins around and takes out Nubsky. That's 3 kills on the board for Bestia. And every point they get is just a little bit more safety.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're very much safe now in terms of the overall points that they've been able to acquire throughout tonight. Then a little bit extra in this one as well, as you said, just for that extra security. Rush to win. Yeah, I don't think they're going to have any chance now. Only the 6 points through the 7 matches played prior to this last game. It's just not really feasible. Always the case in PUBG. The mathematics say, well, if you wipe the lobby, wiping the lobby just never really does get done. A very unfortunate position to be in when you're coming in last and you don't really have a proper chance, but you just play it out. You have some fun with it. Over towards Pachinki at the moment, which is a close by position to the center point of the phase 1 circle. Penta just opening up the prayer book here on the church altar. Hiding very nicely.
Pure RNG, again, showing that discipline. This is one of those positions where it is central to the circle. And as always, we've got an inverse donut where everyone has committed around Pachinki, slightly over to the west of it. But it's going to be Bunko. Opens things up onto Gatch, tries to get himself the flush, but ends up exposing himself to Zico. Will be able to find the damage, but can't find the knock to go with it. Pure RNG. Should be able to get themselves the revive, but not if Demon has anything to say with it. Takes down Gats as Knight of Honor. Huge panzer, but he is so close to getting the knock. He's just not able to finish it in time. Potentially Dangerous have made their position known as Pure RNG now start to shift down to the south. Oh, Valier has no idea about this player inside of the Wizard Tower. As soon as he takes those shots, Zenox is going to peek out, gets himself the knock, confirms the flush to go with it. Big points from Rise to win. Again, Pure RNG, they should be safe.
Yeah, should be. Into the red zone as well. We haven't really seen any kind of real red zone calamity throughout yesterday and today, which is probably a good thing, to be honest. I'm not a fan of the red zone, and obviously it's not quite the old. It's not like the old red zone, but still, it's very much same. And yeah, more bad news for Rush to win as Penta catches them at the tree. It's going to be another knockdown, and that means there's only the one player. Well, Snakers gets the wonderful view, and Balforos had no idea that he'd actually just driven over Snakers. This is not good news for Empire. They need all the points that they can muster up, and even though Shimboy did get the knock onto Flood, he was subsequently traded. They lose 2 players in the blink of an eye, and so far, Empire are very much at threat of potential elimination. Punich, though, huge knock and flush. Needed that. All the points matter, but he's now the only one left standing just as a solo for Empire. They are now at a real threat of being out of the top 10 by the end of this game.
That is unfortunate start for Empire, a team that, I mean, they forgot to sign up last week. Let's not beat around the bush here. Everyone's blaming Michael for it. Not sure how true that is. I'll tell you what is true is they are going to have a real rough time, even if they make it out of this fight, getting into zone, because it's shifted hard up to the northwest. It's going over to Everest as Banditos grabbing the mountain early. Rush to Win will go down out in 14th position. That should be their dreams. Demolished, unfortunately, by Pure RNG. There's only Penta staying left up. They've got 2 kill points on the board, but a team that they don't need to qualify again. They just want to get themselves at the top end of the leaderboard, take even more cash home with them. It's going to be Team Mirror.
Yeah, and now it's eyes on Team Raisin and what they can do. Sorry, Razav, what they can do from here to actually catch up to Empire, who are down to just essentially a single player. Punich has just gone Roshawk Bridge, so he's going for a big wrap towards the north. May look to come in towards Georgia Paul, play for late game, just try and stay alive at the very least. But it's so much harder to rank tank when you've got to get top 4 to start picking up those placement points. Berserk, well, is the door just slightly left ajar as well for them with Empire's early demise? If they can, you know, come home strong here in this final game, pick up a lot of kill points, make the late game, they too could also look to overtake Empire. So Empire on 26 points now. That's inclusive of that 1 kill point that they've got. That puts them 4 points above Razav and puts them 9 points above Berserk. So they're at real threat of potential elimination. It's not a guarantee, but when you've got Razav, who's still got 4 players up over towards the Gatka Fields in a decent spot, it's, you know, it's going to be a real possibility. Punich is going to need to see if we can find at least maybe 1-2 extra points just to feel a little bit safer, put a little bit more of a distance in terms of points. And the double reds are available here as well for Razav. They've got a really good split. This is looking really dangerous now for Empire. And they've got a point as well, so I apologize. I didn't realize Razav have got a kill point, so it is actually a 3-point gap.
It's only a small gap, though, and when Razav have 4 players left up, Empire only have 1, and they are in a very strong position. You've got to think they are looking strong, but again, is this a position where they can get those kill points? They are far out on the west here. They are really going to be banking on a zone shift where they could potentially take out some rotators. Spoon is just heading through Rozok. He is going to pull out the old school Valley 8 strats, a strategy that Empire have become all too familiar with, of healing up, keeping your head down, sneaking in, and then trying to get some kills, catching a squad off guard.
And Razav can play late game as well with the 4 players. They don't have to. They don't have to suddenly go start hunting. There will be plenty enough kills with a 3-point gap. They don't have to, you know, think about, oh well, it's 10 points. We need all the kills. We don't want the lobby to expire before we get the opportunity. As there goes Penta for pure RNG. Certainly done enough. Top 5 coming into this game. Not a threat at all. Punich, and there you go. Empire out. So it's going to be a set amount of points. 26 points for Empire. Razav are on 23 points. It's going to come right down to the wire. And for Razav, they don't get a reprieve at all, in fact. Despite a good 2-2 split for them, south side is Stalba. The circle decides to go north side.
That is not ideal for them, just as that rotation was not ideal for Punich. I'm telling you right now in those comms, he's saying, what the hell are people still doing there? But LG, they left it a little bit late after taking that rotation. They were regrouping, and they punished Punich for it. Bestia, they are going dead center onto Everest early on. It is a bold play from them. But it's those risk-reward factors. If they can get dead center, they could bump themselves seriously up the standings. Nicholas trying to find an opening towards Bestia, but oh no. We see a BRDM in use. Glock takes down Damoon. He also takes down his own teammate with that nade. They've still got the BRDM, so that will provide a little bit of extra cover. But 99 If he throws out a frag, should be able to at least flush it out, if not get a second knock, which appears to be what he's trying, but he faces no joy as he gets caught with the headshot and followed up with a frag grenade.
Yeah, it makes it very unlikely for Berserk to get in the picture as well now to accompany Razab in that battle for the top 10. Losing a player at this point in the game. Razab have continued to maintain a decent little split, so they're trying to take as much space as possible. But not easy with these teams up in Stalba. They can see quite a lot.
Banditos also able to see quite a lot, but they're not able to get shots onto a lot. Just focusing on popping tires onto corridors, preventing those vehicles from being used in a rotate. It's potentially dangerous. Take themselves a lot of shots, using the BRDM to send it over towards those final Berserk players, but it's going to be Karak who's waiting for Unhappy, driving that vehicle, but he just cannot connect with the shots as they send it into ruins. There's a lot of cover here, and they're going to need it because that car has blown up. Karak's getting caught out, but able to get to safety. The vehicle getting lit up. Psycho looking out for the rest of those pure RNG players. Finds a big headshot, but he sees that BRDM coming and gets ready to make a move.
Yeah, that BRDM we've seen throughout this weekend has been an absolute nuisance of a vehicle. Still keeping my eye on the way that Razab are tracking. They're the big factor, right? They're the ones that can still get into the top 10. So they're starting to push up Stelba. That's going to be an intriguing prospect up against a Banditos team that has been tracking really nicely today. They're in form. They're winning fights. And Empire are hoping that Banditos can win at least one more fight. The very next one potentially against Razab. And it's going to be an Everest finish. Apologies if I just said Stelba, but yeah, Everest finish is where we are going. And that's going to make it very difficult for these teams now that are actually not on Everest, because you've got to push up this hill. But at the same time, if they can time it right, if those two teams are fighting at the top in Razab and Banditos, you could get the timing to make your way up. But you've also got this BRDM monster over towards Ruins that is just cleaning house. Bizlet knocked down by a Guz. So yeah, they're still looking down. Even though Banditos have got Razab at the doorstep, they're still making sure to look down, punish the teams that are not at the top of Everest. Lusui's going to be eliminated for Berserk. They're just about done here. And their time in the PUBG Players Cup coming to an end. Characters find the angle through the window. Unsuccessful in finding the knockdown courtesy of Kawazine. And Furia will eliminate 55 Esports. We go to 10 teams left remaining.
Slawi goes down. Is Unhappy somehow still alive inside of these ruins. Making it count for Berserk, but he needs to go Berserk and get a lot of kills to stand a chance of qualification, because things are getting more and more difficult. The chances are getting slimmer and slimmer. Hops in the vehicle, ready to make a move, but these Everest circles are so tricky to navigate at the best of times if you're rotating in late, never mind as a solo. Speaking of rotations, looks like Furia are able to hear Mirror in their vehicles. Kraken's looking all the way down. Looks like he just about got a glimpse of one of those Team Mirror players, and it's Vanna who gets spotted out first. And this will be the cue that Team Mirror are sneaking up. Fury are doing everything they can to try and make the most out of the high ground, but as Kawazine tries to throw down a nade, he gets knocked by Haven and should be getting flushed out as well. Kraken fires the trade over onto Fakeson, but gets absolutely lit up. He's only got the smokes for cover, but no bullets are going to be raining through because LFP has to hit the heel. RDS, he's bandaging out in the blue. That is not the best decision unless he has a jammer pack to try and keep him alive, because he's going to be tanking a lot of damage, especially from LFP with those shots. Haven, the final player left up, but Poser finds it with the FAMAS. Furia on 9 kills as they finish up Team Mirror, but it's Banditos, the team who got on to Everest earliest, that are looking to start sponging up kills.
Yeah, Razab haven't really pushed into Banditos. They've come to a bit of a truce on this top side of Everest. So Banditos just no kills just yet, but they've been in the thick of it. A lot of shots, getting some knocks here or there. Obviously, it's such a distance away from all of these teams. Like you can see here from the POV of Yaya, he's got a 4x. and they just look like ants. These are not easy shots to land at all. Razav continue to not want to push. They're just playing the late game. They got the 4 players up, and that circle has just continued to push away from them. They've had to constantly move, and now they're at the point where with a circle pop such as this, you essentially have to push into Banditas. You've got to take this fight. I mean, you will get rewarded for this. If you just wipe them out, all 4 players, you're in the top 10.
This is big for Razav. They're looking to try and find those LG players, but this verticality aspect makes it so difficult. The crossfire coming through as Faravero tries to apply pressure onto Snakers, but it's Martin who peeks up, cleans it up, and that's it. Razav, they have now overtaken Empire Gaming.
Well, they're tied.
They're
tied
the
right
lobby.
now, 26 points.
It's close.
26 points. I don't know. I don't know what the actual tiebreaker is. Is it?
Yeah, because Empire managed to get 1 as well, so they're currently tied. Yeah. It's going to come down to the tiebreaker. But if Razav can get themselves 1 more point, that gets themselves into that $20,000 Masters.
Yeah, and honestly, 1 more kill should not be that difficult. And Laucha with the knockdown onto Yaye. Now you've just got to confirm this, and you're into the top 10. Berserk really aren't going to be a threat as well. Everyone else is already out. That is not in the top 10. Laucha getting a little bit bloodthirsty. Now they go for the push. Agus is also quite low. This is where it should be done for Razav, provided they don't just get completely flushed. They should be able to get at least the knock and then the quick flush themselves. There it is from Martin. Agus, surely they don't just run past it. There it is. They're into the top 10. The Panther bounce as well from Barry Vero, and Empire will miss out on the Masters, Chunks. A huge calamity for them here on the final day. There's 7 kills for Razav. They're not just limping into the top 10. They are storming in, and they will be off to the Masters.
That is a rough way for things to go for Empire, a team that had a strong performance yesterday, but they just let it slip today. Glock, yeah, he's going to be using that BRDM for a little bit of cover. Just need to be careful. Obviously, you are still vulnerable to grenade damage. So if Furia spot him out, they could do a lot of damage and take potentially Dangerous out of the lobby again. Another team that are all but confirmed into the top 8. As I think as the lobby currently stands, there's not much room for movement in terms of qualification. But for a team like Furia, they want to get themselves this win because that then gets them the lion's share of the prize pool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a massive gap to Team Mirror. I don't know if it's going to be possible to overtake them, considering, what, 29 points the gap. You got 11 here. I don't think it's going to be actually possible to take over Team Mirror. But in theory, they've already qualified, so you kind of count Fury as maybe the #1 seed at the end of this anyway. Circle again just to the north side of Everest. There goes JMS. Down to 5 teams, 15 alive. Glock just sitting in the BRDM. And a huge result for Team Razav in the final game. You know, we always kind of talk about these situations. The team that's outside of a qual spot, they have to do X and Y in the final game to make their way in. And this time it happens, unfortunately, to the detriment of an Empire Gaming team that went out relatively early in the piece here in this game and lost members early. It was only Punage as a solo for their last moments. And 4 players up as well. There's every chance they could even win this game themselves as well. And Voradoris looking for another top 4 finish.
Zenox, Furia have a mortar on Everest. If there was ever a place to use it, this is the open terrain where you want to make the most out of it. Sneak attack takes down Fuscatao, but it's Glock who jumps out the BRDM to try and steal it away. Infinite Void also going to be getting knocked now by Bestia. The sneak attack down to low health, tries to peek up, but he's taken out by Ranked Phobic. It's all down to DraftKings to try and get the kills as he flushes out one more. It's Ranked Phobic laying prone, using the vehicle for cover. Should be safe for the time being, but look at this. Lady Come, the player who made it into the late game so consistently yesterday, now going to be forced to run out in the open. Kawazine looking up the hillside, trying to find those Razav players, but not giving anything away. There's pretty much every player is inside the zone. It's only DraftKings that has to continue to rotate.
Yeah, what a massive final game though for Furia. 12 kills. Glock, a little bit more health on this BRDM. Just playing as the solo, of course, potentially dangerous. And our top 10 is set. which is always a nice feeling. Sometimes having to do the tricky maths or wait for leaderboard updates, or questioning if you're spot on, can sometimes be a little bit daunting at the end of these kind of tournaments. But alas, it ends up being a top 10 that is certainly finalized, set in stone. And DraftKings, a little peek over the ridge, does finally get the elimination onto Ranks Provic. Here comes Lady Kun. Goes for the seat swap. A little bit ambitious, considering the high ground advantage for DraftKings. And with the Mark 12, should be able to finish off Lady Kun. Dead lose his life for it as well. So that actually is best here out in fourth. And we go down to our final three teams, which is the BRDM Glock for potentially dangerous. And then the two teams of 4v4, Team Razav and Furia.
I want to see what the approach is from Glock here. Obviously, he's got that BRDM. He's used it to make it into the late game. Actually used it to great effect, not just like we saw in our Miramar game earlier, where it was just a case of 55 going around running over players, but he's been using it as cover, jumping out of it, getting kills proactively. And Furia doing the same right now. 12 on the board as they look over towards Razav. A big spray from Kawazine, but it can't convert. Maybe the second one can. No. Laucher taken down low. Furia, they have no util to work with. It would really be game-changing in this battle. I'm not sure whether they have any idea about Fisher playing close. The flashbangs will come out. That could be his opportunity to push, but instead opting to just keep his head down as Razav focus their fire down to those those northern players from Furia, making sure that Fisher isn't going to be getting spotted out when he peeks. But as the deployable cover comes in, Kawazine comes out of his hidey hole, takes down Laucher, followed by Martin. Absolutely huge plays here from Furia, trying to grasp onto that first place position, but they are so far behind Team Mirror, who have just stolen the show this weekend, as always.
Yeah, and Razav played this out the way that any team should. When you're outside of a qual spot in the last game, doesn't matter, even if you've done the maths and people have been counting the kill feed and those things, you just got to play it as if you're still behind. You've got to just try super hard to make sure that you pick up any extra points. You're never 110% certain, what happens if you miscounted the kill feed or miscounted coming into the game. So you just want to kind of treat this as if you're still trying to qualify. We know, and we've got the benefit of the doubt to know that they have indeed already qualified, but every point matters. Plus, at this point, you probably just want to get the win. Wouldn't that be a nice little treat as well? In the last game, outside the top 10, to then go on and win it and get into the top 10, even if the win itself wasn't really necessary. Now down to a 3 for Furia after losing RDS. Kawazine finds the angle onto Fisher. Of course, that blue now starting to push them all down here from Mount Everest. Glock still down below as well. Good tag and knock onto Farry Vero. So Kraken and Posse will go as the duo. Lachau trying to hold on, but he eventually gets caught. That's going to be third for Team Razav. And now it will be a 2 versus 1. Glock out of the BRDM, does get the tag onto Kraken, and now comes down to a straight 1 versus 1 for the second game in a row to close out for what will be the final match here for this week's Players Cup between Furia and potentially Dangerous, both inside of the top 10. Both will be on their way to the PUBG Masters, but who's going to get this final chicken dinner?
Let's not forget as well, potentially Dangerous going into this game. They had 39 points to be able to get into the prize pool. They only needed 3, and they've managed to get 9. So now becomes the question of how far into the prize pool have they gotten? Have they been able to overtake 55 Esports or even Furia with that win? 9 kills to go alongside it. This could be a huge movement here from potentially Dangerous, securing themselves not only qualification, but also a chunk of this weekend's prize pool.
Yeah, big turnaround for potentially Dangerous. They've been really, really good, I think, throughout the 2 days and the 8 matches, and they've always been kind of thereabouts, but we've had a lot of those top teams soaking up the vast majority of the points. Team Mirrors, your Furious, your 55s, and Bandidos, of course, today as well. Really, really started to overtake and got themselves into the top 4, but as you said, there's every possibility that a little bit of extra cash money from this particular Players' Cup goes their way now for potentially Dangerous off the back of that win. Really good late game performance from Glock. Yes, he had the BRDM, but there were many times he got out of that BRDM to find a couple of kills as well. So it wasn't just a case of only just sitting in it. He got out, ducked and weaved, good positioning, and he was able to benefit and played a really, really good game of PUBG. Of course, the talk will also then go to Empire and Razaf, that battle for the 10th and final spot. Unfortunate for Empire, just a game where it didn't work for them. And if they had at least one more game after this, you would imagine they would have been competitive in that, but credit to Razaf, they really came home with a strong sail. 20-minute mark there, they hadn't quite qualified, but it was this fight next that got them over the line. These kills here, and that then got them into the top 10, with Empire had, of course, been eliminated by that point.
Yeah, huge performance from Razaf to be able to qualify. They had that safety net of Empire going out, but the pressure was certainly on, and they performed when they needed to. But it was Furia who really dominated the lobby in terms of kills. I think they ended up with like 15 kills or something crazy like that, but still potentially dangerous. Glock using that BRDM, he made it into the late game, but he managed to clutch out in a difficult 1 versus 2 scenario, isolated the fights, took them as 1 versus 1s, and that's the key thing. If you're playing for trades, those situations are less likely to happen, but when you've got a solo just as powerful as he is, they are going to be able to isolate those and win them. But it's Fury who take the lion's share of the points from that game. That should confirm them in second place, but I suspect that with the 12 points Razaf were able to get, they are probably still sitting comfortable in the prize pool.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you kind of see Team Mirror at 0 points in the last game. That was the only match, really, where they had a donut, where they had nothing really gained. All the other 7 matches, they were absolutely impeccable. That last game lowers their, you know, points per game average quite dramatically, in fact. But, you know, they had very much sewn up that top spot and could certainly afford to have a game such as that. Even for Luminosity, in the end, the 2 points that they gained here in this final match ended up not mattering because of just the way that the results kind of panned out. But it did leave that door slightly ajar, that if other things had have, you know, happened out through that match, as we get the leaderboard, as you can see, they only ended 7 points above Empire. So if Empire had had a game similar to Team Razav, and they both kind of went toe-to-toe for points, there was a small chance that Luminosity could have missed out, but they just cling on to that 10th spot. Razav, of course, got themselves in. Team Mirror in the number 1 spot, and potentially Dangerous up into 3rd based on that win that we just saw.
Yeah, really, really impressive from all the teams who have been able to qualify, some more securely than others. And remember, Mirror 55 already qualified, so all the way down to 10th, but that is heartbreaking for a team like Empire. But you have to say Razab, they really stepped up, not only narrowly making it into 10th place, but jumping all the way to 9th, and that leaves us with our prize pool. And yes, potentially Dangerous does it. That was a $200 game right there from Glock as a solo player, making it to the end. Huge performance, getting his team a bit of that prize pool, but more importantly, getting them qualified for that $20,000 Masters. That is where the big boys are playing. So let's take a look over at the teams that have qualified. And yeah, a lot of familiar names taking part on the 4th through to the 6th of July.
Yeah, I mean, it looks stacked, doesn't it? And I'm very much hoping that it's going to end up being as high quality of PUBG as we saw this weekend, Chunks. And, you know, you add in teams like Liquid and Falcons, and it really just fills out this lobby. Hard to really envision who are going to be the favorites or who's going to be able to, you know, take it out, because we saw some really, really big dominance from like Team Mirror, for instance. Like, do they go in right now as the favorites in this format, the way that they have been playing? A team already qualified in week 1 that then dominated in week 2. I think that certainly for me is a team that I'll keep my eye on.
Certainly will be. So many strong names, some of which we've seen perform this weekend. But let's take a look over at the stats. And of course, with Mirror leading the pack, as always, they steal the show in terms of kills, damage, and survival times. Things vary a little bit more when you look at the other teams below them. Obviously, 55 Esports definitely playing kill heavy, but they didn't really get those late game performances as we maybe expect them to when you look at the stats for kills and damage.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting numbers here across the board. I think for me, it's for Adoris, the survival time, the damage, but then not quite the kills. There are a couple of games where they had certain positions on like Miramar, for example, where you could get damage, but you just probably couldn't get the kills to follow. I think they had an overall really good tournament. Bandidos as well finished really, really strong. What's fascinating is they're not in the top 5 for damage, but they got top 5 kills and they're third as well for survival time. So that's quite intriguing. Talk about efficiency from them.
And you look at the opposite end of things with Foradoras, they really got themselves into positions where they could take a lot of shots, get themselves a lot of knocks, but they just couldn't convert them over. And look at this. Somebody who isn't Kawazine with the most kills. I think this might be the first week where we've had this, but it's Posa that gets 20 kills this evening. And Mira stealing the show. We're not actually even seeing Kawazine in the top end of things. This is... Genuinely, if anyone has watched the previous weeks, this is shocking.
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, credit to Posa and Furia. I think Posa getting quite a lot of that in the last game to kind of leapfrog up, and I thought Fana was absolutely fantastic throughout this tournament. But you're right, for Kawazine, not in any of the particular graphics for either of these 3 categories is quite fascinating. Slabby, shout out to Slabby as well. They're in third for Potentially Dangerous, a big reason why they were obviously in the end able to get third and get some prize money.
Yeah. What a set of games, though. We now know which 16 teams are going to be competing in the second Masters on the 4th of July for $20,000. Be sure to tune in because it is going to be an awesome weekend of PUBG. But Zenox, that is it for us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will see you all shortly.